I'll never know how far I'll go. Press the pedal, take control. Take control.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Ready, Set, Sim Endurance Series, our very first endurance championship here at RCI within the iRacing realm, and we're excited to get stuck into a new world of GTP and GTD cars. After the battles at Sebring and Daytona International Raceway, the fight for supremacy in both GTP and GTD classes is heating up, and there's no better place to continue the story than this iconic Californian circuit. Tight, technical, and unforgiving, Laguna Seca is a track where the brave thrive and the slightest mistake can be very costly. From the legendary corkscrew to the rollercoaster ride of Turn 1, this place demands precision and respect, and with multi-class traffic thrown into the mix, expect nothing less than fireworks this afternoon. My name is John Dalton, alongside me the fabulous Jesse Lee, and behind the cameras we have Ted Edwards, and all three of us will be taking you through the next 3 hours or so. Jesse, it's going to be a long afternoon ahead for some of these drivers. Lots of focus and lots of traffic involved with 15 GT3 cars on the field today.
Hello, John. Hello, everyone. And John, you sure said it. It's going to be fast-paced racing here today in the RSS Endurance Series at Laguna Seca. It's also going to be incredibly frantic. 2 different classes of cars. This is shaping up to be one of those races where attrition is going to come into play. Also, to being patient. Now, I know that doesn't necessarily go hand in hand with being a race car driver, but today, patience is absolutely going to be a virtue and potentially could pay off big points-wise here today. But, of course, before we get any of that done, we've got to finish up practice here, which we are doing, and get to qualifying. Either way, John, I'm pumped up. I cannot wait to get going here today. Small track, very fast race cars. It's a great day to be alive.
Yeah, absolutely so. And qualifying has begun. 8 minutes 15 on the clock as we jump on board with Bart Matcher in the HWT Motorsport number 42. Down to turn one, heavy braking zone, nice and wide. Going to be crucial for getting passes done here for the GTPs once the lapping does begin. Of course, the Andretti hairpin into turn 3 we go. The slight right-hander easy overcook this corner. Under the bridge we go towards 4. Again, a kind of single file corner. We've seen GTPs trying to shoehorn open the door already, and it doesn't end all too well. So, like you say, Jesse, patience is key. Turn 5 is probably where we want to get the lap traffic underway as we head up the hill towards 6. Might be able to sneak a quick pass through here, but again, another single file corner and lots of gravel being dragged onto the circuit already by drivers pushing the limits. Over the Rahal straight towards the corkscrew, again, blind entry, cascades away towards the right-hander, and then balance the throttle through turn 9, rainy curve. It's a long left-hander, heats up the right-hand tyres quite heavily before we head down in towards turn 10 and nearly at the end of the lap, turn 11. It's a very fast lap here at Laguna, much shorter than the bigger circuits we're kind of used to seeing. Sebring, Daytona International, of course, you know, Spa is quite famously a long lap as well. And already over the board goes Bart Matcher in the GT3 car. It's good enough for P3 at the moment, just behind the Thomas Enger Sim Racing entry and just ahead of TTM Esports, looking to be a very competitive field already, Jesse.
Yeah, it certainly is, and you expect nothing less out of the GT3 classification of cars, built completely differently, of course, but also balanced, homologated to be sort of raceable against each other no matter what the platform is. So, all that considered, I'm expecting it to be very close indeed. A short lap time around here also aids the closeness where I try to explain this to folks. A lap around Daytona, for instance, which is much longer than Laguna Seca, talk about a tenth of a second. That's pretty significant. A tenth of a second here is more like half of a second at Daytona. That's just the difference in track size, what that means. So expect these times to get ever closer. Several cars under a tenth of a second over each other is not going to be out of the ordinary here.
So it's such a small margin, as we alluded to. The Iron Brew liveried car over the line of I think this is the Willie Slow Racing team, if I'm right in saying. The number 31 goes through there and already towards the top of the GT3 field. 121 flat nearly at the moment. And Tom Hench in P2, 3/10 of a second already down. Very small margin back to the VGTR Esports crew and 2/10 back to the Thomas Enger entry. So super small margins already in GT3 and GTP. Equally so, I would say. Weapons mandatory, though, streaking away from the field currently, a 115.3, 3/10 down, although CRF instantly beating them with a 115.360. So looking rather competitive in both classes. And like you say, Jesse, it's going to be a bit of a race of attrition this afternoon. Who can really kind of look after their car more than anything, can keep it out of trouble, out of the gravel and out of the wall. Of course, private qualifying at the moment for all drivers. So nice clear track for everybody to do their absolute best. But it is, of course, race pace that will determine the final result in around about 3 hours' time.
Yeah, it's a complete opposite to what these teams have had to deal with thus far. Of course, traffic is always going to come into play when you have multi-class racing, hypercars or GTPs in this case, and GT3s. But the other thing you have to consider is that this is the most compact track. It's certainly the most compact track that we're going to come to all season. So this is a completely different skill set. Qualifying, you may not think is a big deal in a 2-hour, 40-minute race like what we're going to have today on hand for the RSS Endurance Series, but it is. It's absolutely everything. It could be the difference between being on the front row and getting out in space and having sort of your wits about you versus being in the kerfuffle in the middle of the pack. So that all considered, qualifying is super important. I always say in racing in general, I want to be at the front or the back. I don't want to be in the middle. Heck, I've even taken a pit lane start on purpose in the past to stay out of the middle of a pack like this. I think it's going to be bad no matter what class you're in, GTP or GT3. You got to be very careful indeed. But more than any other place, you want to be at the front of the pack. You don't want to be in the middle. Unfortunately, for the vast majority of these cars, they're going to find themselves directly in the middle here after qualifying's over.
Yeah, and equally the mid pack's that kind of scary place, isn't it? Where you pray everybody behind checks up in time, and you don't get blindsided by a driver not paying attention, essentially in their endeavours. The nearly on pace Cadillac, though, still on an outlap, yet to set a valid lap time. The only GTP car to do so. Swedes getting fired up, leaving it quite late in the session to get their time underway and in the bank. Beginning the lap now, heading over the line down towards turn one, of course, over the rise. Heavy braking for two of the Andretti hairpin. And it's going to be a real big speed difference between these GT3 cars and GTP entries. Of course, coming out of the corners, the GTPs are going to pick up much faster. The cornering speeds are going to be quite a lot higher as well. So got to be crucial not to trip over people heading into a corner. You may be, 3-4 tenths of a second behind, but that could soon close up once the downforce kicks in around Laguna Seca. So fingers crossed, the 899. Lots of time spent behind the scenes, Jesse. Of course, nearly on pace, a team close to my heart. Lots of time spent in tweaking this car, getting it set up right. And I think they're still not quite happy with how the car drives. But we know NOP, one of those teams, Jesse, that kind of lingers around in the background, and then all of a sudden they're somewhere towards the top, and we're not sure how it quite happened.
No, it's absolutely well, I'm going to say that that's not the case. Nearly on pace, I think they undersell themselves with their name, and also their presence is always immediately felt in these races. Repping the Hackstrom Systems sponsor on that car. That's a real sponsor on that particular Cadillac race car. So we love to see that as well. But I don't think they hang around. They are always a team to be reckoned with, in my opinion, no matter where they are. And also, too, when you're involved with them as well, because you, my fair sir, won for nearly on pace at the Nürburgring Nordschleife just recently as well. So not only are they a great team, they continue to acquire great talent, yourself included. You're just being modest because you drive for them.
Humbly on pace, maybe should be the rename
That
of
is
the team.
such a good name. Humbly, they are that. Very humble indeed. The lot of them here, as qualifying continuing. The last couple of cars on a valid lap. 50 seconds left to go here. VFT Esports currently the quickest. Galeo in the triple three, taking it for Cadillac and VFT in GTP. Garage 991, Yannick Ruoff in the Porsche, getting it done in that class. A 15.2 versus a 21.0. That's 6 seconds difference. And again, that's more akin to 8 to 10 seconds on a bigger track. We'll see, though, if Nearly on Pace can, well, live up to the name here.
Absolutely so, and towards the line they will go across the line, and just waiting for the timing board on the left to update, and hasn't done so. So another invalid lap.
They got another
from
lap, though.
Nearly on pace, and they will start from the back of the GTP grid.
Oh, no,
so
they don't. That's right.
long afternoon ahead for the Nearly on pace crew. I think Mikael Sundstrom and Philip Engman double teaming that car through the afternoon. So bit of a long afternoon ahead, Jesse, but again, 2 hours 40, anything can happen. Race of attrition, lots of traffic, lots of twists and turns, and we're going to have to see how this one plays out. But we do, I believe, have the championship standings to catch up on. Of course, round 1 and 2 has been cleared. Sebring and Daytona. Round 3, of course, we are here today at Laguna Seca. So everything to play for still quite early on in the championship. 7 rounds. We're not even halfway through at the moment. And in the GTP field, it's CRF Motorsports that take the top step, but only just from VFT Esports. They're not too far behind. And of course, nipping at the heels, weapons mandatory as well. Big jump back to FTW Motorsport. They're duking out, though, with eSim Racing WNB. Vesta Sport Green with the best number of points on the board today with 69. Racing Nublets, 2 points behind on 67. And then a big gap back to Nearly on pace with 44. Magic Engineering on 37. Joint tied with the CRF Motorsports white entry. Stratos Motorsport on 34. Vesta Sport Academy with 31. A team very close to both of our hearts, Jesse. Speed Juice and Horseflow on 28. and Hulk Brighton Racing on 25. VGTR 21 points, Prime E Racing on 17, and K1 and Esports Racing Canada just a singular point separate those guys at 15 and 14 points. Everybody else in the board, as you can see, yet to score, and anybody with a bold number of points in round 1 and 2. That's going to be for pole position, and any purple points are for the fastest lap of the race. And as we head over to the GTD points field here at the top, we've got Midnight Motorsports with 130 points. I remember they had a very good run in Sebring at round 1. FTW Motorsports again featuring in both categories with 121 points, a slight gap back to Garage 991, ironically driving a 992 on 115 points. Big jump back to K1 Esports. They've got 68 points. VGTR just behind them with 65. Thomas Enger Sim Racing on 53. Vesta Sport Black tied with 48 points with the ERE Race Esport team there. eSim Racing Winter Segment 2 points behind on 46, and another 2 points behind Team Punt Now with 44. A singular point, Fitness Club Racing on 43, and another singular point for Wheelie Slow Racing Team that's really hotting up within the GTD category as well on that one. So plenty of action to be had, and lots of people wanting to probably gain some solid points from this round purely by, I would say, maybe staying out of trouble. Jesse, is going to be the crucial thing today.
Yeah, and never more important than on this start of this race. You've got to get single file. This is not a racetrack where you benefit being too wide. It's not a racetrack where you really benefit going too hard in the beginning. It's all about going as sort of single file line, and that's for both classes. Get out in space, then start racing. Of course, if you have a battle down into Andretti Hairpin, obviously you're going to want to take that, but that is the trouble spot. That's where it's all going to come undone. And don't even get me started about the corkscrew and the corner that everybody forgets, Rainy Corner. You can get out of sorts there, be off into the dirt, have a huge crash here. And of course, we're talking about iRacing that punishes you for having those offs, those incidents. You could lose body panels, and that is lengthy repair down in the pit lane. But most importantly, get single file, get your head about you, do whatever you can to preserve yourself early, because it is only a 2-hour and 40-minute race, but that is an eternity at a place like Laguna Seca. Start on the proper foot, get it done early. Be smart, be economical, go racing later. If you can catch them once, you can catch them again, I always say. But we're about ready to go for the GTPs, led by VFT and CRF Motorsport, respectively. Let's kick it off.
Yeah, very good jump there from the VFT Esports entry away from the field, already breaking away as they head down towards turn 2, although in the background, Speed Juice and Horseflow looking to try and make up a position on Weapons Mandatory, although not close enough. There's contact in the GTP field. Hopefully this isn't going to affect the GTDs by the time they come down here. It's the eSim racing car just about pulling itself out of the gravel ahead of the GTD leader, Garage 991, although tyres are going to be dirty on the GTP car, so possibly a bit of hindrance for Yannick Ruoff in his early stint. Fingers crossed the GTP car can gallop away. Nearly on pace, heading at the back of the field, very cautiously, Jesse, I would say. Very, very smart move from Mikhail there.
Half throttle, 3/4 throttle. They are not even trying really to get involved here. They can clearly see what's going on. They have an opportunity here coming up to turn 5, up into turn 6, and they'll probably wait here for a lap or so. Keep in mind, these GTPs, they're 6 seconds a lap quicker. He could have pressed the issue and got by just about everybody, but that's not the point here. He's being very cautious, letting everybody get single file. For the most part, they did exactly what I would have thought they would have done, what I would have recommended they do, get single file and can go to racing each other. But so we had that one issue in GTP that sent some of the cars flying, and now it looks like Nicholson here for the Thomas Angus Sim Racing group, they have had some sort of drama before they got to the Ray Hall straight turn number 6. That's also a problem spot. Pretty much any corner here can be a problem spot, or is a problem spot. And I believe that is the Speed Juice and Horseflow car going off in the Andretti hairpin.
Maybe a little bit too late on the brakes in the early stage for Harry Conway. Of course, heavier fuel load, maybe tyres not quite up to temperature, up to pressure yet, and finds himself with a trip through the gravel when some drivers already alluding to, can we not turn this into a rallycross circuit for the rest of the afternoon? Of course, with the iRacing debris system bringing on gravel from the beyond the track limits can make for a very slippy turn, pitching it in, thinking you're all kind of set, the car's loaded up and ready, and suddenly someone has brought a load of gravel onto the circuit. So drivers going to have their wits about them this afternoon if things like that keep happening. But Harry Conway slipping behind Carlton Wong in the BMW, just ahead of him towards the back end, of course, of the GTP field. And Thomas Enger Sim Racing stopped on circuit. Back to the pits they will go with a tow, Jesse. That's going to cost them some time. I'm wondering if it's already afternoon over for the number 340.
Well, they already had that one issue, you'll recall, and they continue to have issues here, just trying to make it through turn 2. Just a humongous drift, and that looks to me, oh yeah, that right rear suspension you can clearly see it's not indexed like that from the factory. I can guarantee that the entire right rear suspension is broken. So this is the initial incident that we saw him, and oh yeah, gets absolutely tagged, pinpoint precision, and also into the tire pack just for good measure on the Rahal straight. And there it is, perfectly illustrated by Ted Edwards, our broadcaster. You can see that tire is not supposed to be towed like that. That is not how you do it. John, you know about aligning car suspension. That's not normal.
Yeah, that's certainly not normal. That's almost a rear steer effort from the Thomas Enger Sim Racing entry here. And it's peculiar, Jesse. They didn't really feel that coming past the pit lane here. Of course, they elected to stay out and then, of course, span in turn number 4. So it's a little bit odd how, maybe they haven't got a spotter watching over the car. Maybe, the driver just simply didn't feel it. I thought they could get away with it until the stint was up, which is going to be about an hour, we reckon, for the GT3 cars. GTPs possibly within 50 minutes or so of a stint, but nearly on pace round at the corkscrew. Let's have a look what happened here. The VGTR car on the outside, and Mikel a little bit too much inside curb there, hooped the car around on throttle, and the VGTR Mustang nowhere to go but into the back of the Cadillac. Looks like no harm, no foul though, no damage on the NOP car, but you can see there in the background, GT3 is getting frustrated, flashing Mikel to try and get him to get out of the way, basically, and luckily the horsepower difference does prevail down to turn 2.
He definitely got tagged by the car behind. That'll be some damage to the rear diffuser of that car, I would imagine. Beyond that, I think he's going to be able to get away with it, but I wouldn't pit, is what I'm saying. I mentioned earlier you either wanted to start in the front or the very back of this race. Well, that wasn't sage advice for Nearly on Pace, because it hasn't paid dividends for them here as they're just trying to make their way through traffic, took the corkscrew a little too acutely, and ended up spinning the car up. The contact with the GT car, that was after the fact, after they were already losing it, but still contact indeed. Looks like Mateus here for the Thomas Enger GTP effort has spun it around in the final corner, and they're not necessarily close enough to anyone, and they lost it getting into the corner all on their own, just turning a little bit too aggressively there on that 90 left, turn 11.
Yeah, maybe brake bias dialed back a little bit too much. Stands on the brakes, pitches it in, and the back end just lets go very suddenly on the apex, and managed to find a clear slot in traffic to get back over to the pit wall side and continue their efforts. But Thomas Enger Sim Racing not having the best of luck with both cars this afternoon in GTP and GTD. However, looks like Harry Conway is on to the back now of Tom Weethas in the FTW Motorsport GTP entry, the Cadillac on Porsche. One of the only Porsches, I think, on the field today within GTP. So a bit of an interesting choice pick car. It seems like the Cadillac being the favorite pick amongst GTP today.
Can we talk about Ben Ford for CRF real quick? First of all, they've taken the lead of the race, but second of all, Ben Ford in a Cadillac, slightly sacrilegious, isn't it?
Yeah, a little bit. It's not something you'd expect to see him in. Of course, surname of Ford, you'd expect to see a Ford on the field, and maybe in the future with the Ford efforts, of course, hinting at a hypercar in the real world, who knows what we could see in a few years' time within the sim racing realm? Maybe a mirror of GT3 cars
Another
into the
one.
GTP field, and another car, indeed, Jesse. Problems at the final turn, turn 11. Looks like the rear's locking again for Carlton Wong. However, managing to get it under control before it became much of a problem. Scooted through the gravel and back on his way he goes. And I feel like we're going to see a lot of that this afternoon with these GTP cars. They seem to have their brake bias dialed backwards a little bit too much, considering there's no ABS in those machines.
Yeah, partner, you certainly called it. That was certainly on both those two cars looked like exactly what was going wrong there, and I do think that that's going to be a problem. You know, a lot of times the teams, they'll go back and forth on the electronic brake bias adjustment and try and nail that, and I think that's just a teething problem in the race here a little bit, but locking the tires absolutely going to be a problem here in these GTPs. We saw Yannick Ruoff for Garage 991, steady as she goes, no issues there. 6 tenths behind him is Tom in the FTW Motorsport red car, who's taken over that P2 spot in the Ford Mustang. Porsche leads Ford in GT. It's 3 Fords in a row after the leading Porsche of Ruoff, of course. And of course, we mentioned the 7 Cadillacs in a row clearly being the preferred selection, which is very funny indeed that the GTP category favors the Cadillac and the hypercar class doesn't particularly like it at all. Very interesting, minute, perhaps detailed differences between the two series, IMSA and WEC, but it is enough to have a dramatic effect here as Harry Conway trying to make up from that earlier incident, flashing away at Tom Weethus here in the FTW Motorsports Cadillac, and is not getting a kind response. Harry Conway appears to have the pace in the Porsche for speed, juice, and horse flow, but just doesn't have the space. Off of the racetrack there is Tom. The FTW car is going to give way here into Rain Corner, and that will be job done. Maybe the pressure applied by Conway just a little bit too much for FTW.
Yeah, I say it every time in endurance racing, you've really got to choose your fights. And, you don't want to spend most of the lap looking in your mirrors wondering when, Henry Conway is going to find his way up the inside of you to try and make a move stick. You'd rather either let him go and try and follow in the wake, maybe work together to progress yourselves through the race, or potentially just surrender the fight, a little lift on a straight, maybe move offline ever so slightly, and just follow Harry through and see what you guys can do together. Of course, at the front of the GTDs, there's no let up. Yannick Ruoff with his mirrors still full of Tom Hench in the FTW Motorsport red Mustang in the background there. They're beginning to break away from the VGTR Esports Mustang in the background, who's having their own fight with Dvorak in the Thomas Enger Sim Racing entry. A little gap between those two guys as well, and Barry Morrison just behind in the Clarity Racing Mercedes. One of two Mercedes on the field today. Big Pig Racing also electing to choose the Mercedes in that mark. So a good spread of manufacturers in GTD, and of course it always yields kind of different perks and abilities amongst the cars. Of course, the Porsche quite famous for getting off the corners, the flat six power plant over the rear axle. The Mustang with the big V8 engine tends to lead to the gruntier sections. Of course, through the straights, not so good on the corner exit, but once it does get going, it really does get fired up. So we might see a shift in dynamic here, Jesse, through the stint of the GTD drivers. Of course, we're estimating around about an hour to get them through a driver's stint from the inside of the VGTR camp that we're watching right now. They're estimating around 45 laps. So of course, a minute 20 takes you roughly to the hour mark. So we'll see, will the Porsche fall off in the late stint? Will the Mustang prevail? Will we see the Mercedes kind of creeping its way up the field like we did at round 1 in Sebring? The Mercedes did have a very good run as we start to see traffic now emerging. A Ferrari getting way out of the way towards the latter half of the lap. Ben Ford and Adrian Galeo, really intense fighting, locked bumper to bumper, and the Mercedes in the background the Ferrari, in the background at turn 10 finds its way through the gravel, maybe a little bit startled at how fast these GTP cars were catching.
Oh, this is dangerous. Dangerous stead into the Andretti hairpin, but luckily the GT3 saw them coming. That is the wheelie slow Acura NSX. It's an Acura because of the side of the world that this race is occurring in, but otherwise known as a Honda NSX. But nevertheless, they interrupted the battle, meaning the GTPs, the leader GTPs. But luckily, everybody was able to play that very heads up indeed. And that's kind of what you have to do. Now, this is the very dangerous and difficult position that Adrian Galeo's in for VFT. They may have a slight pace advantage. They might also be able to take an advantageous move if Ben Ford for CRF Motorsports gets hung up by some of these GT3s. The thing that you cannot do, however, is be overly aggressive if you're Adrian Galeo, because you have more to lose at this stake right now, because you have the faster car. Arguably, you're in the best position, you can see things unfold and you can react. The leader doesn't have any of that. The leader has to do something. You can be reactive to what the leader is doing, which means you're in the best position. He's also playing the gamesmanship part of racing here by flashing all the cars in front of them, not necessarily flashing Ben Ford, just flashing all the cars, saying, look, we're battling here, this is for the lead, it's a big deal. And yeah, you can see the GT cars, though, John, playing their part here. If they're not in the middle of a fight, they are just allowing them to make their way through when they get there.
Yeah, it's a crucial thing, isn't it, of multi-class racing, especially as it does take two to make a successful pass. Of course, as a GTD driver, you don't want to be overly defending a GTP. Of course, remembering the horsepower difference, the aerodynamic difference through the corner, out of the corner, etc. The pass should be relatively simple. It's not like when you mix, GT3 and GT4, it becomes a bit of a clash, because although they're very different machines, they're quite similar in the aspects, whereas these, of course, fully built prototypes. It's getting very dicey already down in turn number 9. I say Ben Ford managing to sneak through on a pair of GTDs, whereas Adrian Galeo had to wait until turn 10 to be able to get the move stuck. And sometimes, Jesse, that pays off when you're fighting in a GTP category, and other times it doesn't quite go your way, especially when that GTD driver, unsighted, has already looked at the apex, sighted where his turn in is, and all of a sudden he's got a GTP up the inside.
Oh my goodness.
Looped around in the corkscrew. We've already seen that car go around once at turn 11. That's the corkscrew of turn 8
still brake lines.
already.
Look
Yes,
at the gravel.
lots of gravel coming out the back of that car, so corkscrew going to be rather slippery for a few cars after that one. And the car just went. I reckon he's probably not adjusted for the speed difference on the GTD Mustang, had to push the pedal that little bit harder.
Gosh.
Harry Conway straight through the middle of the gravel. That's a bit of rallycross going on there for the Porsche, but I would say probably caught the Mustang a little bit too quick, had to push the pedal a bit harder, and it's getting very dicey once again. We're too wide, too deep. GTDs and GTPs heading up to the corkscrew. Mercedes slams the door, doesn't want a GTP up the inside, and we're now 3 wide nearly as we come out of the corkscrew through turn 9, and I think that's the race leader, possibly Ben Ford, getting involved there as well, creeping up on the back of these guys, and it's all kicking off. It's not. It must be another CRF car. It must be the number 69 of Michael Opalka in the GTP white entry. Again, 2 wide. The Mercedes getting swarmed either side by 2 Cadillacs, and weapons mandatory, trying to use the traffic to their advantage, heading down in towards turn 2. Going to have to go the long way around. The inside line is certainly favoured. I think there was a hip and shoulder from the CRF Motorsports car, and weapons mandatory dropping back to P5, but traffic really igniting some of these fights. The gaps opened up, Jesse, in the early stage, and the traffic certainly closing those gaps down again.
Yeah, it certainly is the case here. Is you get into that traffic and all of a sudden your outright pace doesn't matter nearly as much. While this was all going on, something happened to the eSIM racing car of Daniel Ricciardo Pavia, and I'm not entirely sure what happened in turn 10, but they were incredibly slow. And is it just a case of losing control? Oh, a huge wiggle, and they're not going to be able to save it. They just about got it stopped, but at least they stopped it before it got to the wall. But that is the Acura GTP going around, and they did lose a lot of time in that exchange. I think you can see that very clearly Indeed. Maciej Hylop in the weapons mandatory 74 now finds himself behind the number 69 CRF Motorsport car driven by Michael Opalka. And that's not exactly what they wanted to do, was concede that spot, but CRF working their way to the front, as has their teammate Ben Ford, who has held on to the lead here, but only just by VFT. Adrian Galeo has gone absolutely nowhere, but this is exactly what I was talking about in the pre-race, John. This is the most dangerous part of the race. You've got GT cars that are all on the same lap as each other, racing each other. You've got GTPs all on the same lap, racing each other, and they're mixing. Nobody really wants to give. We've seen a lot of good driving on both accounts, but a lot of squeaky bum time too, especially in these tight corners going 3 wide. They're absolutely pushing their luck.
Yeah, it's almost akin to the Nürburgring Nordschleife, isn't it? When you watch, VLN or NLS as it's now referred to, and the 24 is a mistake there from the CRF car. That's going to allow weapons mandatory up the inside of turn 9. Hyler making the move stick already, chopping the nose off on exit, and Hyler goes up into P4. CRF down now into P5. Let's see, can the weapons mandatory car extend that gap? They've been looking racy for a few laps now. They've got the clean air ahead of them. It's time to get the hammer down and going. As I was going to say, it's kind of akin, isn't it, to the Nürburgring Nordschleife that we see, so many traffic jams when you get the GT3s, the 4s, the cup cars, the road car variants all mixing together. It's, trying to find that clean, safe space in and amongst the traffic is very tricky indeed as they go through. As lots of gravel there, Jesse, out of turn number 3. Somebody has been off and dragging the gravel back on. So exit at turn 3 is going to be rather slippery. And I did notice a lot of gravel at turn 10 after we saw the Acura off as well.
Yeah, luckily they cleaned off the corkscrew. Of course, that where the car deposited the gravel and the corkscrew was directly in the racing line, and by virtue of that, the first couple of cars through there are going to clean back up the racetrack, and it's very sketchy for them. But the good news is, after you run through it a few times, it very much cleans up the racetrack, and it's no longer an issue. What's worse is that if you go off in turns 2, 3, and 4, and you drag gravel back on the racetrack, if you're racing too wide through those sections and you're on the dirty side of the racetrack, and you don't realize that side is going to be dirty because the last time you were through there it was clean, it can create a humongous problem if you're actually trying to race each other. Speaking of trying to race each other, CRF, VFT back at it again. They've cleared the traffic, and they've got the better part of a sector to the next lap traffic that they would come upon, and that's only one car. They have now clean run. We'll see if Ben Ford can eke out a gap here, or maybe, as I believe, Adrian Galeo just has a little bit more pace than their VFT Cadillac versus CRF's Cadillac at this particular stage. Certainly staying very close indeed, looking for a run here up at the top of the corkscrew. Defensive line from Ford goes back online because realistically you don't want to take a defensive line or an inside line through this corner, otherwise you could end up doing exactly what nearly on pace did very early on into this race, trying to take that corner so sharply. But everybody minding their own, looking down to the inside now. A move maybe for VFT down there, scares Ben Ford out of the way. Adrian Galeo goes to the lead, new leader in GTP.
Yeah, Galeo to the front now, been held up by Ben Ford for a few laps. Let's see, can the VFT esports car kind of stretch the lead, open up the gap, and will traffic play a part? We've only got one car kind of ahead at the moment, just heading through the transition between 3 and 4. So that's probably going to be caught in the next lap or two. We'll have to keep an eye. Will Galeo fall foul and allow Ben Ford back through? But already in that first half of the lap, Jesse, a big gap opening up already. Meanwhile, in GTD, Yannick Ruoff still leading Tom Hench in the FTW Motorsports Red entry. And for the first time ever on the RSS Endurance Series, we have a little segment that we're going to bring you on the right-hand side of your screen. We asked drivers to submit their sim rigs, and Yannick Ruoff did just that. And as you can see, a Moser wheel base as well, and SimGrade VX Pro pedals, and a DIY rig, which is the wonderful aspect, of course, of sim racing now. There's lots of DIY involved, Jesse.
Yeah, it's absolutely brilliant. We love the rig rundown section presented by Ready Set Sim. The Moser Grin, the Moza R9 base, and I think we've seen this sort of turn in sim racing. It started out this way, and it went more to unibody construction sim rigs, and now it's going more back to DIY. But that's the brilliant part about the Moza platform is mount it wherever you want, mount it however you want, mount it to whatever you want, basically, and that is kind of the beauty of it. But Yannick Ruoff showing us his beautiful setup there with the, I have no idea what size curve monitor. You're the curve monitor expert among the two of us. How big is that? Obviously
I'd
an ultra
say,
wide, but
yeah,
how ultra wide?
I'd say probably in the 40s, at least. I mean, from my experience with a 45-inch LG ultra wide sitting to my left, I'm just having a look now and kind of comparing. I don't think it's too dissimilar from what I'm looking at. So I'd say somewhere in the 40s, at least. It would be good if we could maybe get the monitor added on, because again, that's a crucial part of sim racing these days. So many monitor options on the market. Of course, you've got ultra wides, super ultra wides, triples. Some people electing to be a bit more humble with a slightly smaller screen, placed obviously a little bit closer to allow more kind of immersion. Of course, we've got VR as an option. Not too many drivers, I think, endurance wise, do race in VR, but there have been a few sprinkled throughout the season. And Yannick Ruoff there showing us how to SimRig 101, I would say. A quick replay here, this
Oh
time
my
from the
goodness.
TTM Esports, lumping the inside red anti-cut curb, holding a very nice drift through the gravel, bringing lots of gravel on in front of the pit entry. And there we go, yeah, the red anti-cut doing exactly what it needs to do, stopping drivers from cutting that corner. So if you are thinking about it in your next stint, if you're watching the broadcast and thinking, you know what, I'm going to see how much inside curb I can take, I think we found the limit, Jesse, with the TTM Esports Mustang there.
Was certainly lucky to hold on to that. And now you see what dragging the gravel. You mentioned that the drivers were pleading pre-race to not drag gravel onto the racetrack because it is very dangerous indeed. But you saw it right there. The nearly on pace car drove right through that, and for the next corner, that makes it very sketchy indeed getting down to the braking zone. But how in the world did TTM even hang on to that Ford Mustang? I don't know. Turpman did a great job to keep that thing from going all the way around. They have been aided by the gravel they were in to keep it sort of in a straight line. But even still, scary moment. Probably the best outcome. Didn't even spin the car, and they got back through it. But they are under pressure here from Tom Roberts from the Wheelie Slow Racing team. The Iron Brew Acura looking to make their way into a better position. But of course, the leader of the race, the overall leader of the race, I should say, Adrian Galeo for VFT, has already opened up a 2-second gap. They have driven away and are continuing their torrid pace. Ben Ford hasn't got anything necessarily for them right now. I want to take a look at Ryan Cassidy for Racing Nublets in third place. That's a very special position, third place, John, and a very special sort of gap. They're in the John Dalton zone right now. They have been for a while.
Yeah, the John Dalton zone, a bit of a coined phrase at RCI within the ACC realm. It's you know, when you're too fast for the guy behind you, you're too slow for the guy ahead of you. So you sit in this nice no man's land where nobody really troubles you. You just have a bit of a drama-free race and just kind of peeling your way through as the last lap times on the left-hand side of your screen flashing up. From Ted Edwards, lots of green, which I can only assume is personal best for that car. So drivers settling in nicely to the stint now. Of course, we are around about 20 minutes, 25 minutes in. So everybody finding their kind of flow. Of course, Harry Conway there setting personal best. And we did have Racing Nublets and Weapons Mandatory doing the same. Although you did say Ryan Cassidy in a bit of a John Dalton zone. It does look like Hyler is fired up and ready to go, lapping his way through traffic after dispatching of the CRF white car just a few moments ago. He's already full attack onto the back of Racing Nublets to try and get the bottom step of the podium. And a strong lineup, I think. Sebring, they did very well despite a few dramas. They managed to recover it back and take a good haul of points away. Of course, we weren't present here for Daytona, but again, equally, if they're showing good pace here, I can imagine doing very well at Daytona as they follow the Racing Nublets Cadillac through the corkscrew, cascading away. A little tweak on the steering wheel as some oversteer creeps its way in. Of course, tyres 20 minutes old now, into about a 50-minute stint, so almost halfway through. And I can only assume, Jesse, nobody double stinting tyres. Everybody's going to be taking a fresh set of boots when that pit stop comes around. And Ryan Cassidy has definitely got to be careful of Hyler as the gap comes down by about half a second in the last lap due to some traffic.
Yeah, no reason to push your luck on the tire strategy here. Put new boots on the car and potentially put in your second driver as well, but that's more of a judgment call by them. But there's no reason to not change tires here, especially after a hard first stint. Get sort of a feel for the race and maybe think about taking no tires later on. A 2-hour, 40-minute race kind of opens up the strategic playbook a little bit, but right now I think it's just not necessarily beneficial to do too much of that. I was talking about Ryan Cassidy being in the John Dalton zone. Turns out they weren't in the John Dalton zone. Maciej Hyler, though, as you highlighted, just absolutely getting it done, coming back through the field. This Corvette trying to do a little bit of that as well. Up inside the top 5 is Thomas Wright for Old Chad's Racing. Is that Old Chad's Orchard? Is that what they're called? I don't know if I'd want a hard cider from them, but I'd be curious to see if they could. So either way, up inside the top 5 in the only Corvette in this series, I'm pretty sure.
You'll say only Corvette, certainly in the field today. But a change in the lead, well observed by Ted Edwards. Yannick Ruoff has dropped back to P2, and there's quite a large gap to Tom Hench at the front of the field in the FTW Motorsports car. It's a 2-second gap between Ruoff and Hench. And if you remember, Ruoff, very commanding off the line, led for the first 30 minutes or so, and something has definitely happened to the number 991. I imagine either a mistake or maybe getting caught out by some traffic coming around. Just trying to see if there's any damage on the 991. I don't think so. The car looks clean from our point of view, Jesse, so something's happened to Ruoff in that car.
It could have just been as simple as running off of the racetrack, being put in a bad position by traffic, something like that. It's very possible that they also were losing a little bit of a pace mid to late in the stint. We're not used to seeing that out of Porsches and other sims. Normally the Porsche comes alive in the middle of the stint, but maybe there's something going on there, but they've certainly lost ground. If I had to hedge my bets after not exactly knowing how they got behind the FTW Mustang, I would argue they probably drove off the racetrack or were driven off the racetrack. But to your point, my eyes are not nearly as good as yours, partner, but there's no damage to the team or to the Garage 991 car. Only the time loss on the board, which they're holding steady now. It seems to indicate that they were off the circuit safari style. Tom Hench takes the lead for FTW Motorsports. So in the past 20 minutes, we've had a change for lead in both categories now.
It's the wonders of endurance racing, isn't it? You know, the guy that gets the best start leads through turn 1 isn't necessarily the guy that we'll see at the head of the field come with the checkered flag. And like you said, Jesse, already 2 lead changes so far. The gaps are equal, actually, in both GTP and GTD. 2.5 seconds between Galeo and Ford, 2.5 between Hench and Ruoff. And Tom Roberts chomping at the back of Theobald Roskam in the Rebound Racing Ferrari just ahead here for the last lap or so. Trying to get round Roskam again. Seasoned veteran, I would probably say at this point within RCI. You know, normally signs up to most of the events in some form or another. We always see him in the endurance lineups for Rebound Racing. You know, Monday champ, quite prevalent in there as well, and put on a fantastic display for the first round of World Tour in the Nissan GTR. They took victory over us in the nearly on pace McLaren, and Roskam had some, you know, fantastic pace. I couldn't even match him in my stint, as we see a GTP car coming through towards the corkscrew, splitting the GTDs. Lots of flashing there from Tom Roberts. I don't think he was too best pleased at the move from that GTP car, but again, nevertheless, we've got to get the traffic dispatched off. We can't sit behind GTDs all day. That's how you tend to lose a lot of time in these endurance races. You've got to be kind of forceful. You've got to show your hand early and make your way around. That's the number 95 entry. That's the FTW Motorsport, also driven by Tom, but Tom Weethas in that car at the moment as he dispatches of the 2 and sets his sight towards the back of the TTM Esports Mustang of Johannes Tretman.
You know what I liked about that from Tom Weethus right there was just patience. Got stranded in.
So we seem to have lost Jesse Lee there due to some technical difficulties. I'm hoping he'll come back and finish his point in just a moment. But Tom Weethas very sensibly splitting, I would say, the GTDs rather than jumping down the inside and trying to make a mess of it at the corkscrew, showing a little bit of patience there. Mustang moving offline very early, shows the gap to the GTP, already dispatches by the time they head up the Rahal Straight. And word from Yannick Ruoff, say we've got a bit of a reporter from one of the engineers saying GTP's happened. That's all we've got, so I can only assume it's going to be a GTP firing up the inside of Yannick Ruoff, and unfortunately coming worse off there, and certainly losing time at the moment. Jesse Lee, we lost you briefly there. I think you're back now. Tom Weethas' point. Let's rewind it again.
Yeah, I was just saying, Tom Weethas, I liked what they did there. They were able to clear one of the GTs into the corkscrew, realized that they were going to be the hot dog in the bun right there, which is a sandwich, by the way. And they just sort of went through the corkscrew, went through Rainy Curve, and eventually was able to get that position quite comfortably indeed. And that's sort of the patience I'm talking about. So credit to FTW, credit to Tom Weethas there for not over pursuing, not putting themselves in a bad position. And it's gone wrong for eSim Racing again. Daniel Ricciardo Paiva has gone off in this another lock into the brakes, John. That one's a little later than normal there. What do you make of that?
Certainly called it, Jesse, coming in on the, I think it's this entry curve that's tripping a lot of people up. We see the GTPs running very wide to try and, of course, open up the corner and you know, get the best drive through it that they can. But at the same time, of course, no ABS, you know, suspension resonating over curbs. It's a bit of a recipe for disaster, especially coming off the curb. If you're just trailing off the brakes into the corner, or you realize how much speed you're actually carrying in, and you think, you know what, I need to scrub a little bit more, push the brake pedal that bit harder, rears lock, round you go into the gravel. And of course, Rallycross turn 11 begins to open up for a few laps before that's cleared off. So back underway for the eSim Racing entry. Second mistake of the stint already, so big time loss for those guys, but still continuing on nonetheless, and nearly on pace, of course, capitalizing somewhat from that. They're up into P9 now, so humbly kind of finding their way forwards is Mikael Sundstrom at the moment. Philip Engman in theory to share that car with him after this stint goes through, so we'll have to see what happens between those two. Galeo, though, still out front in the GTP category, 5.5 seconds now, the gap to Ben Ford, so a very good gap has opened up there. We did say, can Galeo do anything with the lead? And certainly Jesse has galloped away, and not a lot of movement throughout the field, as we see another mistake from the Thomas Enger Sim Racing entry. I was going to say positions looking relatively the same on the leaderboard. Comes out of, oh, that's a bit of a big wiggle. Not even, I can't even explain that, Jesse.
Yeah, because of the way of the camber through Rainy Curve right there, it sort of flattens out and it unloads, and it has positive camber instead of negative camber. It twists and turns like Rainbow Road in Mario Kart is the best thing that I can describe it as. And whenever the car unloads and you have wheel in it, it can snap on you, or if you make that little jerk reaction, you overcorrect and it snaps on you, and that will happen. That's not only a GTP problem, that happens in open wheel cars as well quite frequently, as the eSim Racing car again. Ricardo Piava taking the Graham Rahal line through there, in fact, is what he's doing there, and getting back on the track, rejoining in a safe manner, all jokes aside. But yeah, because of the way that the sort of track twists through Rainy, it's very delicate the way that you have to like hold the steering, and if you micro correct, you feel the car get away from you because the road's falling away from you the opposite direction. Positive camber turns to negative, or actually vice versa of that. It snaps, and if you're not paying attention, or you're not up on your steering, or if you're trying to drive through it, which is exactly what happened there in a stiff, rigid race car like these things are, it's going to go around exactly what a Formula car might do if it isn't loaded up with downforce. I think Colton Wong has gone around as well. Ben Ford has had some manner of incident, I'm pretty sure, as well. See what's going on here. What happened to Ethan Carlton Wong? Oh, now that. John Dalton, you're a mechanic. I am not, but I'm going to say that's terminal.
Yeah, that's quite a lot of
Oh, no.
repair there. T-boned into the side. One of the Mustangs, not sure which one that was, but GTP scrambling. That's Ben Ford, I think, coming through there, having to take to the gravel.
Explain why he was yellow
Nose
flag.
cone, of course, absolutely gone. It's the Thomas Enger entry of Halton Nicholson. Hit the inside anti-cut curb, came back on, held the brake probably quite sensibly in his head, but of course, coasting onto the racing line, unsighted. Carlton Wong comes around. Let's have an onboard replay from the BMW.
Ted, you
Here we
dirty
go,
birdie.
coming in straight into the driver's door.
Man.
Nose cone comes off, wheel goes sideways as well. Mustang big damage. The nose cone bouncing around. Ben Ford there cuts through the gravel to try and avoid the chaos. And that's going to be some lengthy repairs for the Holker Brighton Sim Racing
huge
entry.
lockup.
And that's a big lockup for Tom Weathas through the corkscrew. Comes back on, lots of gravel again, just
Might have damaged
deposited
the car rejoining
on
there,
the
right?
circuit. And yeah, somehow managed to keep that under control with a big lockup there.
Well, that was huge. That's about as big of an incident as you can have in iRacing without a car going upside down, and thankfully everybody else was able to make their way around. That's why I saw Ben Ford yellow flagged in that section of the racetrack, just merely having to drive off track for self-preservation. Ted Edwards, our lovely broadcaster, who's with us for this entire series, as these two are going head-to-head, has a top pro tip for everyone out there today. If you're listening at home, stay off the sausages.
Yeah, sound advice there from Ted Edwards. Avoid those sausages because we've seen quite a few cars already falling foul of them. And we see here Bart Matcher getting elbows out with Martin Varga in the CRF Motorsports entry after they made a mistake down at turn number 10. Found their way through the gravel across the pit entry side of the circuit, and back on they came. Big time loss, of course, allowed Bart Matcher to catch back up in the Ford Mustang. And meanwhile, towards the front, Heiler getting very close to Cassidy. We said this fight would be brewing for quite a while, and Heiler still yet to find his way through the Racing Nublets entry. But in the background, Jesse, it's going to bring a Palka into it with the CRF white entry as well, the number 69 there. This is soon going to be a three-way battle for essentially P3. And I can assume it's going to come down to traffic when the move does happen. I think a GTD will be the deciding factor between these two, as Tom Roberts stays towards the outside line, signals himself nicely. Door is open for Heiler as well to
still
sneak on
close.
through, although very tight indeed, very close, as the CRF car, another
Not
flash of the
happy
lights
about that.
from
Tom's
Tom
not
Roberts.
happy. Tom
You
said,
know
I
headlight
gave you
language.
a lane and a half on the inside of turn 11, and you took everything and still, if not made contact, almost made contact. That's a little too greedy, is what Tom Roberts is flashing his lights for right there. That's my translation of that, of like, I gave you all the space in the world, and you still tried to take a little bit more. That's a little greedy. Won't do that again. That's Tom Roberts. Well, Tom, we all know Tom. He probably used more colorful language than that, but we mustn't.
Yeah, Tom, fired up Welshman, I think, would have had some choice words, I would say, in the car towards his team on that one. And I know you know headlight language better than anyone, Jesse, and I'd agree that is a frustration flash from Tom.
I send it and I give it. I'll tell you that right now. That is the way it works. And you kind of get an idea of what they mean by that. And usually it's used in the way that it's intended to be used, where you're trying to warn other drivers of your imminent arrival. But a lot of times drivers use it to communicate their displeasure or their, sort of camaraderie amongst each other. If you give up a position and let somebody in, you flash your lights at each other saying thank you and you're welcome, and you go along your way. But there were expletives in Tom Roberts' headlights the last time through, I dare say. Speaking of that car, representative of Rebound Racing, Joe Dauber, came into our chat earlier over on YouTube to say, can someone tell Tom Roberts specifically, to leave us alone in the really slow Iron Brew Acura? That hasn't occurred, at least for the time being. And they will continue to lap around Actually, technically, it has. About Roscom has driven away from Tom Roberts just a little bit. 3 seconds the gap there. Battle for P2, well and truly on. Ruoff continues to lose time here. I just think that Porsche is front-loaded for the stint, John. I just don't think they have anything to fight anybody with here. Ever since they sort of maybe got off of the racetrack, they may have had contact. I think we heard from one of the Garage 991 teammates, maybe. Could be damage on that car, but even still, they have consistently lost time here.
Yeah, something's not akin in the Garage 991 car, and eSIM Racing with more troubles down at the corkscrew. Very violent snap as they came through the midsection on the transition between 8 and 8A, waiting patiently for the cascade of cars to come through the corkscrew before getting back underway. It's very, very tricky to get through, and lots of gravel spread again over the circuit. We're going to keep saying this all afternoon, but the gravel really kind of visible from the TV cameras, of course. Light gravel on a dark surface makes it very easy, and that's the weapons mandatory car round at turn number 7. Very well held by Hyler, but that's a big loss of time to the back of Cassidy and allows Opalka through in the white entry as well. And you can see they're struggling to get it stopped for the corkscrew. And last but no means least, Thomas Enger Sim Racing round once again, this time at turn 4. It's a very rough afternoon for the number 88 so far.
Yeah, I'm not an engineer or a strategist for Tama Enga Sim Racing, but if I were, I would say more rear wing, more downforce, please, on that car on their first pit stop. There are so many teams that are scrambling right now, just attempting to survive this first stint. We've still got the better part of 15 minutes on the GT3 class before they come into the pit lane for their first pit stop of the race. But everybody here, it seems like, in one way or another, struggling for that all-important grip. Now, it's very interesting because we're at a weird point in the season in iRacing where the GTPs, the IMSA cars, have not come here to Laguna Seca, so it's potentially they're racing here on outdated information, and that's also complicating things as well. But we've seen both classes struggle quite mightily here today. Porsche in the VG PR Esports Mustang trying to convert this second place pass on Yannick Ruoff, and to Ruoff's credit, they've sort of held once they have arrived at the doors as Gunnar Horschier here for that second place position. The FTW Ford Mustang, leading in the GT3 class, has only driven away to 3.5 seconds. So despite the struggles that we think Garage 991 has been having, the damage is not nearly as extensive as VFT has been able to manage in the GTP class. Remember, Ben Ford had a couple of second lead about 30 minutes ago and is now 8.5, 9 seconds behind the VFT Cadillac of Adrian Galeo.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, the gap is somewhat kind of consistent there. Ted Edwards currently showing us the forecast for this afternoon. I've noticed the lighting had changed a little bit in game, and I was getting a bit wary as if the weather was on the horizon. But as you can see there, no rain planned on the forecast at the moment. Just a little bit of cloud. High wind speed, though. Good to note there. 13 kilometers an hour of wind. That's quite a tall order compared to what we normally see within the world of ACC. So again, could be another reason why some drivers are getting caught out on the brakes. Of course, tailwind is going to upset the car somewhat compared to, of course, if you're braking into a headwind, it's going to be quite nice. It's going to slow the car down a little bit more than expected. So again, could be another factor added into things. It's something we kind of forget, Jesse, isn't it, within the realm of sim racing now. Sims are so accurate, and there's so many factors at hand that affect how the cars drive that, you know, compared to 15 years ago when we had no weather at all in some games and it was just dry all the way through, today's sims are very advanced in that aspect, as we see the eSIM Racing big wiggle again.
Yeah, that car is not right. So eSIM Racing, they've got a black flag. So that tells me that they have used all of their iRacing incident points, and they now have to serve a drive-through. This is not a pit stop where they are going to change into, where they're going to go into their pit box. This is a drive-through penalty 20 incident points in the first hour of this race, the first 50-ish minutes of this race, and that has led them to a drive-through penalty. So after this, they'll have another 8, I think, and if they get another 8, they'll have another penalty. So you get 20 freebies, you serve a drive-through, and then you get 8 more, and you have to do it all over again. It's going to be a long day. It's already been a long day for that eSim Racing Acura team. Well, hello to everyone joining us over on Twitch and YouTube. We invite you to like and subscribe and follow for more close racing action, and that was very close indeed, as maybe elbows out. And John, I know I'm the translation expert on what headlights mean, but I think you can take that one.
Yes, 8 elbows out indeed between the VGTR entry and the Garage 991. It's a bit of a late defense from Ruov, and Horchy just saw the kind of gap there, and headlight language from you, Jesse Lee. That's definitely an angry double flash from Yannick Ruov. Not happy with how that went down. Plonked the car in the middle of the road, but there was still a Mustang-sized gap up the inside of turn 11, and the VGTR entry saw the opportunity, decided to seize it, and elbows out, as always, in GT racing. So Ruov, I feel, is going to be felt very hard done by in this stint. Of course, started off so well, as you said, the car looked very confident in the early stages. Bit of a knock with the GTP, now a knock with the GTD. I can only assume that's going to affect the confidence, but meanwhile, Opelka trying now to do what Heiler couldn't do just a few laps ago, and that's latch onto the back of Cassidy and probably get past the Racing Nublets car, as Tom Weethas a little bit early down the lane, we reckon maybe a lap or two. I think nearly on pace foresaw 50 minutes of running. That's 5-0. Of course, we're kind of reaching that time at the moment, so it's not
that early. But
it's
you're
not
right,
too far
it's like
off.
a lap early.
A lap, yeah, a lap or so early. So we should see a flurry of GTPs coming down the lane in the next few moments, which again could shuffle the order, Jesse, depending who has practiced their pit cycles.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think there's something to be said for somebody who comes in early here, not again for the GT cars, but or for the GT3s rather, but for the GTPs. It's right around pit stop time for them, and I think it makes sense to come in early if you've had a rough one, perhaps, or maybe you're sort of stuck behind a car, or you see you could gain an advantage here. Don't mind running long in the next stint. Coming in a lap or two early is a great offensive weapon that you can deploy at this stage in the race. Credit to Ryan Cassidy up there for Racing Nublets. They have been chased by this CRF Motorsport Cadillac by Michael Opelka, but they have not given up this spot. This has been as close as you like for the entire middle part of this stint. And Ryan Cassidy, who I thought was going to be caught dead in the water, has been anything but. Opelka has just not been able to get close enough, or when they have been close enough, they've not been able to convert that position.
All very well catching, isn't it? It's getting past that truly matters, and that's what speaks results. So maybe Opelka just playing the long game towards the end of the stint. They know pit stops are coming, they know they're looming, so sticking close enough could be just what they need to try and get past. Meanwhile, Ricardo Palva once again off the circuit. That's down at turn 6. A little bit deep on the brakes, runs wide, pulls a lot of gravel back onto the exit of turn number 6. So we're going to have to be careful through there for the next few laps until that one clears up. Meanwhile, down at the corkscrew, we've got Thomas Enger Sim Racing. They're off the road, back on once again after their lengthy repairs from the T-bone from the BMW that we saw just a few moments ago as well. And Tom Weethas out of the pit lane on his out lap, going to be scrabbling for a bit of tyre temperature to try and get it back up, get into pressure. And I think we've already caught a bit of a mistake from them looking behind the GTD and just having to stand on the brakes a little bit more. Rears locking once again. Cold tyres, Jesse, straight out of the pit lane. Weethas into the gravel, back underway once again. No harm, no foul, but again, this is what happened to the Thomas Enger entry. Bit deep on the brakes, it wasn't going to make the corkscrew, but kept it out of the wall nonetheless. And again, rallycross line down the corkscrew and back on at turn number 9.
Yeah, I mean, that's smart by Hilton Nickerson there to not drive back directly onto the racetrack and make a bad situation even worse. But just not gone their way today. And several teams, it seems like the teams that are struggling are continuously struggling mightily here at this particular stage in the race. The tires are worn. It's not particularly hot here in the Bay Area, which, by the way, I'm going to get up on the soapbox, mostly because I'm a short man, but second of all, because I feel like I need to do this PSA every time we come to Laguna Seca. Ladies, gentlemen, and others, Laguna Seca is in the Bay Area of California. The Bay Area of California is not a dadgum desert. It is a fertile valley where they grow wine. It is not a desert. This is dry brown grass and sand pits that you see around you for safety. I repeat, we are not in a desert in the Bay Area of California. This has been a PSA presented by Jesse Lee, provided by Racing Club International. Have a nice day. Back to you, John. But no,
Fantastic
seriously,
segment there.
it's 21 degrees C. It's not particularly warm, even for this area in the world, but something is wreaking havoc on these teams. 21 degrees C, I think, is the ambient. The track temp's obviously going to be quite a bit higher than that, but there's something going on here with the tire. So, okay, 45 degrees on the track. That might be the cause of some of this. The tires aren't gripping as well as they would like it to be. This is also just a brutal racetrack in general, easy to fall off of the road here, and you're seeing that today. But
So Ted Edwards spotted something. Another race replay coming in this time once again. eSim Racing heading into the corkscrew way too late on the brakes, bounding over both segments and nearly catching Bart Matcher there in the H17 Motorsport car. Heart and mouth moment for Bart there in the number 42, but a tow back to the pit lane for eSim Racing. That's going to be lengthy repairs. Fingers crossed, a fresh driver in that car, and they can get back underway and see what they can do with the rest of the afternoon here today. I was going to say 21 degrees, pretty much a British summer, Jesse. If it was 21 degrees in England, we'd be loving life right now. Shorts and t-shirts and barbecues would be out in full force.
yeah, unfortunately, it does get warmer than that in this part of the world, but it's I wouldn't say it's particularly unpleasant most of the time. So I was just wondering, but yeah, if it's 45 degrees C on the track, then yeah, that's going to be a little slippery on these tires. But I think a lot of the issues that they're having is they're just getting caught out by the track, and these GTPs are not necessarily the hardest cars to drive, but when you get them out of control, it becomes an absolute nightmare. Whenever you lose control, case in point, it goes pear-shaped very quickly. The Thomas Enga GTP entry struggling here again. Is this another locking situation? Yeah, just too much brake bias in that, and it goes around on them.
So lots of issues today on brakes for GTPs. It definitely seems like Ted Edwards alluding to earlier that the IMSA series within iRacing hasn't been here at the moment in this season, and of course we've had a big physics update in the last few months or so. So maybe some of these teams running older setups, Jesse, having to tweak kind of old baselines to the new patch, and maybe just not kind of finding their feet ever so slightly with it, as we see Apalka down the lane for the CRF white entry, Harry Conway for Speed Juice and Horseflow also down the pit lane. So we're relatively speaking on time for kind of nearly on pace's predictions for race running. And Adrian Galeo, a whopping lead at the moment over Ben Ford. 24 seconds to the good is the VFT Esports entry now. And Tom Hench in the GTD category, some 6 seconds ahead now of the VGTR car, as lots of action for the GTPs and more action. This is the Racing Nublets entry. They've collided with what looks like Tom Weethas in the FTW. The front clip's missing for Racing Nublets. There's a meatball flag out for both cars. Let's have a look what happened here. This was heading down into turn number 7. Looks like Weethas has lost it through 7, and we've seen a T-bone, almost a one-to-one of what we saw just a few moments ago, Jesse, with the Mustang and the BMW. This time it's Cadillac on Cadillac action as Weethas comes through a big slide, snaps one way, snaps the other, and straight across the front of Ryan Cassidy in the Racing Nublets car. This is on board with Weethas. Hooks the anti-cut curb, I think, and that's just enough to unsettle the car. Lots of opposite lock, couldn't catch it, snapped the other way, and a broadside across the front. Very unluckily of Ryan Cassidy, and that's how quick it can change in endurance racing. Hyler now, of course, up into P3. Cassidy struggling to get it stopped for the corkscrew as well by the time he got up there. And you can see there Weethas's car slightly injured. You can see the wobble as he comes down to the corkscrew, trying to get it underway.
Yep.
Big suspension damage. That front right's not even turning. It's, you know, lost all support there. That must be absolutely horrible to try and limp back to the pit lane. But again, Tom Weethas doing just that, and just after the scheduled stop as well. That's big time loss for the FTW Motorsport car. Detrimental, apparently using the fast repair that we're offering drivers. Of course, one free fast repair, and FTW Motorsport using theirs. And I think that's very well called, given the scenario that they were in.
Just absolutely nowhere to go if you were Ryan right there. I think is, you know, what we can conclude, that just nowhere to go. Nothing they could have possibly done. A car on a different lap, by the way. They were not racing for position when that happened. Just a bystander, and Ryan just got involved in that, and just very unfortunate for the Nublets team. But this is for position on your screen right here. The 69 CRF car able to convert the move on the weapons mandatory car, driven by Maciej Hyla. So a swap there that's been a long time coming. And Marius able to take over third. So now 2 CRF cars inside the top 3. That's what they were aiming for. But Thomas Aguero has taken over duties for VFT Esports post pit stop. And it's all gone to plan for VFT. They needed this today, John, because they were only a few points out of the championship lead. We showed you the points prior to today's race. Didn't need a great day. They just needed a day better than CRF, in the number 9 car, that is. And they're getting that here today in the 333. This is exactly what the doctor ordered.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of a textbook race, isn't it, so far for the 333? It's you know, exactly what they need. A good, strong finish here today, and 2 hours 40 on the clock. It's one of the kind of shorter events on the calendar. So you take the lead early on, you drive for the next 2 hours or so, and you see the checker. Nice haul of points coming your way, and a good kind of, you know, setup to the latter half of the season here for the Ready Set Sim Endurance Series. Of course, the end of May 31st, we head to Watkins Glen. July 26th, we've got a break throughout June, so July 26th will be round 5 at Road America. At round 6, August 30th, we head to Indianapolis, and the final round, September 27th, Road Atlanta, as we see the Racing Nublets car with a little bit more drama, and the Speed Juice and Horseflow car having to meander their way through. That's Harry Conway still at the wheel of that one, and it's all come undone for the Racing Nublets entry. Such a shame. It looks like they've actually got damage.
Oh, they
that
do.
looks very weird coming out of turn 4. I didn't see any contact, but certainly very weird steering inputs there, Jesse.
No, I just think the tires were dirty, and they tried to take that corner, and they were sliding the car and had to save it. But they definitely, for a moment, looked like something was damaged, and they're still struggling with that car. But that was Harry Conway and the Speed Juice and Horseflow car able to take that position up inside the top 5 in the number 11 Porsche. And I gotta say, steady as she goes for Speed Juice and Horseflow. They didn't start inside the top 5, and they've had many cars have incidents directly in front of them. Most notably just now, the Racing Nublets car, but now inside the top 5, and they have kept it clean and they've kept it quiet. And they probably wish, John, they would stop mentioning and talking about them, because normally when the commentators talk about a team, it goes completely wrong. But for them, going all well that ends well thus far today after the first pit stop cycle. But for Thomas Aguero, leading the race, commanding lead, but not quite as commanding as they went into the pit lane, of course. They had over a 20-second lead. It's down to a 20-second lead now for VFT Esport, but that's a little consequence to them as they continue to lead. And as they run right now, they are the championship leader in the RSS Endurance Championship Series.
Yeah, absolutely so, and it's a good thing to mention. Of course, the CRF Motorsport entries P2 and P3, so Ben Ford knows the car behind for position isn't going to be challenging them anytime soon. Of course, a 10.5-second lead over their teammate, but if they do catch up, I'm sure some team orders will be in the pipeline for those guys, giving the faster car the right of way, or just, not pressuring as much. And it's that confidence booster, isn't it? When you know your teammates behind you, nothing silly is going to happen, so you can really focus on your race and kind of get back underway, as we see a few of the GTD cars coming down the lane. Old Chad's Orchard being one of them. The Thomas Enger Mustang also down the lane. CRF in their McLaren, they've elected to come down the lane this time. And Theobald Roskam for Rebound Racing also in the lane. Of course, Yannick Ruoff pitted lap 40, so he was one of the first GTD cars to pit, but not before, of course, Parman Mann in the Clarity Racing number 47 Mercedes. Lap 30, they elected to come down the lane in that one. As we see traffic action happening nearly on pace, and the GTR getting past each other there, giving the inside line very nicely indeed. Bit of damage on the front end of that Mustang on the right hand side of the bonnet as you sit in the car, so left hand side as you look from our TV cameras coming towards you. See that lifted up a little bit. Ted Edwards very vigilant on the camera work as always, as the one of the CRF entries puts a lap on the Mustang as well. And it seems like Bart Matcher has managed to creep his way up inside the top three at the moment. Of course, yet to serve a pit stop, so again this will shuffle around. As you can see, GTPs have all pitted. GTDs yet to complete their first stops for half of the field.
Is this the car, the VGTR esports car? Is this the one that had the contact with the Speed Juice and Horseflow car, or not Speed Juice and Horseflow car, the nearly on pace car in the corkscrew about an hour ago now? I wonder if maybe that's where the damage come from. And if that's not where the damage has come from, then I'm not entirely sure where that damage came on that car. That might have actually occurred whenever they got around the 991. Like, now that I think about that as well, remember turn 11 as they do come into pit. They're following Tom Hinch into the pit lane. FTW also in this time, and I would suspect the HWT Motorsport car, Barton Macha, will also follow them in after they complete the rest of this lap. And that will just about complete the pit cycle, accepting the eSIM Racing winter segment Ferrari, who has yet to make a pit stop. Pit stop times going. This is going to be interesting to see. Is there anything to be gained coming into the pit lane now? Do you repair the car if you're VGTR? I don't know. We'll catch up on them. We'll be able to tell. The pit stop timer on the far right-hand corner in the brackets. And as if on cue, Bart Macha does bring the HWT Ford Mustang into the pit lane. I will give credit to HWT. They created a livery that just sort of works on every car. They're like Williams in a way.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen a bad HWT car in all of casting in this one. Black flag, though, for VGTR Esport. I can only assume that's going to be for speeding in the pit lane,
Sure
Jesse.
is.
42 second, pit stop there on the cards. It was all going so well for the VGTR Esport camp. Baumann now going to have to take that penalty on the chin for his teammate. That's going to be a stop and hold, we reckon, for that one, as they have to come into the pit lane, stop in the box and be held. So similar to a stop go 30 like we see within ACC on that one. And we've got another black flag for the Thomas Enger entry, the number 88. If you remember those guys, they've been in some dramas in this race, and they've now got a black flag for what we believe to be track limits as well. So another stop and hold for those guys, and immediately into the pit lane to serve that one. Yannick Ruoff, of course, is going to be promoted up into P2. Again, they'll have some good breathing room now back towards Parman Mann in the Mercedes, who should logically inherit P3 from the VGTR team, of course, when they come down the lane to serve their stop. But looking towards the 88, that's a drive-through. So that's been served. That is through the lane. Black flag disappears, and VGTR electing to stay out. They're not wanting to serve that penalty. Maybe hindered, Jesse, by the GTP cars coming through.
They might have been. John Dalton, you want to do a little role play with me real quick? How about this? How about I speed into the pit lane? You're going to play the Zachary Bowman part. Oh, by the way, you're
Oh,
no,
big moment.
huge wreck here for the 4th place car, Thomas Wright, the Chad's Orchard car, completely sideways into the inside retaining wall, spins back across the racetrack. Cars scattering as they go around. That car was in 4th place. They're going to be outside the top 5. Huge suspension damage. And was there contact prior, or did they get into the dirt? Now, if they got into the dirt, it's also possible. No, that's going to be contact. Nearly 3 abreast with the GTP and other traffic in their own category, and huge contact with the concrete retaining wall. Luckily, everybody else able to scatter. Let's see an overhead camera. Excellent job by Ted Edwards, our broadcaster here. And oh yeah,
Oh.
just absolutely sideswiped him. Net code perhaps, but a humongous crash going down into Andretti here, and a second violent incident today.
Hopefully the old Chad's Orchard, the car was definitely crabbing when it got back underway. Front end and rear end definitely disconnected on that one. So they'll be back down the lane to fix that. Hopefully can use a fast repair to get themselves in and out nice and quick. Of course, very disconnected, sideways into the corkscrew. No meatball flag. Of course, no panels missing off that car somehow, but all 4 corners definitely very bent, drifting around turn 9. That's not going to be a happy car to get back to the pit lane, but the number 68 doing very well to hold on and to try and stay out of other people's ways. But yeah, Tom Weethas in the FTW Motorsport, I think, drove that final nail through that car.
Zachary Bowman has brought the black flagged car down pit lane, and I do believe that's a stop and hold if you speed in the pit lane as well. So that's not just a drive-through penalty, and that is, in fact, a stop and hold for Zachary Bowman. What I was going to say, John, was doing a role play. I speed in the pit lane, I get a penalty, and I hand it off to you in the car. If you're Zachary Bowman, you're no longer speaking to me as your teammate. Right? You're pretty cross.
Yeah, I'm going to be pretty angry at, inheriting that penalty. But again, it's a team game, isn't it? It's a team effort. Not every racing driver in the field has probably had a perfect stint in their team. They've probably handed off many a thing before. Racing Nublets back into trouble again, though. Sorry to end the role play early. Turn 4 coming through, loses the rear end, touches the gravel, grabs the brake to try and check it up before the wall, and just about tried to, I think it looked like he tried to catch it, realized he couldn't.
Need a hood cam to
went for the brake.
If he made it to the tire wall.
He definitely made it to the tire wall, Jesse. There was a slight bonk.
Did he?
I reckon there was. We're 2 to 3 up here in the box. Me and Ted against Jesse.
Well, I'm old. Well, I'm old and my eyes are broken. That is a very bent front splitter on the front of that Cadillac. It's only the camera. I just want to make that very clear. Those cars did not touch, but the camera did phase inside the other camera. It phased up, if you will. But either way, that is a very damaged front of that Hertz Cadillac. You're very much correct. All the pit stop cycle complete for the majority, if not all, of the cars, John. And my goodness, it's going to take us a minute to unpack everything that has just occurred in this race. But what do you say we take a little break and let everyone enjoy the sights and the sounds of Laguna Seca?
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to the Ready Set Sim Endurance Series, our very first endurance championship here at RCI within the iRacing realm. And we're, of course, very excited to continue at round 3. It's been full of dramas, thrills, and spills, but we are kind of around the halfway point, just past. And it is Aguero in the VFT esports car that leads GTP, and FTW Motorsport Red, Tom Hench still at the wheel of the Mustang leading in GTD. But this man on your screen at the moment, we've been riding with him throughout the break. Yannick Ruoff in the Garage 991 car, still chomping at the bit, wants to get back to the front of the field, but it is going to be a very big ask in the next 1 hour 17 minutes. But never say never, Jesse. We've seen plenty of action and drama already, and traffic has been the main talking point of today's race.
Certainly has. Talking points abound. Traffic from the GTs, from the GTPs, all the way around the racetrack. The other talking point, one that's cropped up quite close to the pit stops, of course, has been penalties. We are joined by one of the teams that unfortunately has run afoul of penalties thus far. Artemy Illen joins us from the Mustang VGTR Mustang camp. Artemy, first of all, tell us about the qualifying effort and how you found the early part of the race. We'll get to the penalty in a minute.
Well, I mean, obviously I'm not racing this weekend, unfortunately, as much as I'd love to drive this. Such a great track. I hate it. But qualifying...
I detected the sarcasm, yeah.
Qualifying was amazing. Honestly, big ups to Hunor for putting us up in P3. He said that he was up on his Delta by quite a bit in that final lap. Unfortunately, though, invalidating it, or I think he messed it up a little bit, so had to settle for third, which is our best qualifying so far in this season. And the start was pretty calm. We knew that the guys behind us weren't really going to challenge us that much, so we could focus on the front. And yeah, we were kind of rubber banding between, getting closer to Yannick and then getting closer to P4 behind. And then I think in the final corner, no clue what lap it was, there was a GTP that went right on the inside of Yannick and basically completely messed up his momentum. The Mustang went on his inside and it slowed them both down drastically. So we were able to catch up to Yannick. I don't know if he got any damage from that GTP, but we were able to catch up. We did make a, kind of half-half move, but we think, at least from what we saw, that there was a little bit of foul play, a little bit of a late defense, a little bit of moving under braking, but we'll leave that to the stewards to decide. And yeah, and then we were running P2, absolutely amazing. Traffic has been all right. I mean, it hasn't really played on our side too much. We would more like it if we would have liked it if P1 got screwed a little bit more than we have in traffic, but at least we didn't get crashed out. So running P2, and then yeah, that penalty was something. The pit entry was completely fine. We got in completely on the pit limiter, all fine, and then for some reason it's about a 50-50. It's a gamble whether the pit limiter will be on or off whenever we do driver swaps. This time it was off, and our teammate, unfortunately Zachary, didn't see that it wasn't on, and just went to go out of the pits and exceeded the pit limit, and yeah, that's another 40-second stop hold. It's no stranger to us now. It's happened to us in Daytona, except it was for pit entry, and this time it's happened again. So maybe we'll go three times next time as well.
Well, you've actually gained a spot just by describing that. The VGTR eSport car up into 9th. Looks like Tom Roberts struggling in turn 9 and 10. That has allowed VGTR to pass Wheelie Slow back up in to ninth place. So the penalty occurred after the car was handed off and the pit limiter was off at that time. You're not the only car to have received a penalty. You are, I think, among the only car to receive a penalty for speeding in the pit lane. Everybody else has used up their track limits. How are
Yeah.
you guys doing on your track limits?
I'd say we're doing all right for track limits, at least for Laguna Seca. We're doing all right. I'd say 20 X's is a bit low for Laguna Seca's sake. Like, if it was something like Road America, 20 X's is kind of hard to get, but Laguna Seca, 20 X's, you can get there in like 40 minutes if you were pushing a lot. So I'd say we're doing okay. We're not doing great. I wouldn't say that we have much of a margin to play with, but I think the same goes for all the other teams, so we're not too worried about that.
For everyone at home, you'll notice he dodged the question by not saying the actual numeral value of how many they have, as if to not dox himself to the rest of the teams. I love the sportsmanship. Let me ask you something about the car livery. John Dalton, myself, Ted Edwards here up in the broadcast booth. We love a good livery, and that Mustang pops. How did that come to be? Do you have a story behind it?
Well, we used to, I don't know if you guys remember, in Sebring we ran a completely different livery. It was kind of like our standard one for a while, and one of my teammates, Hunor actually, the one that's racing today, the one who's probably way quicker than all of us, just decided, the story goes, we wanted to change up our luck, which ironically didn't change our luck at all.
I mean, it worked through qualifying in the first 30 minutes.
Exactly. I mean, yeah, so it worked a little bit, but we wanted to change up our luck, so we wanted to change something about the car. We didn't want to change the car necessarily, but we wanted to change something in the team. So Hunor was like, you know what, we'll get a better livery. It will be like a little bit different. It's still the same colors, but like just make it like right, kind of like a circuit board look to it. And yeah, I mean, that's kind of the whole story. We just wanted to bring good luck, kind of like a good luck charm, but no. No.
So you're telling me that anime is bad luck to have anime girls on the car?
Okay.
Factor on it.
Right. Anime isn't bad luck. Just look at the Good Smile cars. The Good Smile cars, they do really well.
Okay.
Which is the Mika cars. But we wanted to go for more professional, and yeah, having anime girls maybe isn't the best. But you're also
Can I make a point?
Oh, go on.
In Super GT, round number 1, Okayama, they were the only car to get penalized, and they lost all their position in points. So maybe not so great. Maybe 2025 is the year of anime equal bad. I don't know. I do this thing all the time where if I don't recognize the show or the characters or what they're from, I always refer to it as an anime, because I don't know what it is, but I can recognize that it is an anime, but I don't know what it is. I will say, if you do tweak the livery again, maybe some anime. Bring back the panache, just some anime, a little bit of anime on the side of the car. But no, I love it. You could see that car. My original point of asking, well, no, that's not what well, yes, but also no. It looks like a car you could see on a grid anywhere in the world. It's very professional looking. It looks different than all the other Mustangs. So whomever is delivering these liveries for you guys, they look fantastic. And I still think it's on brand for VGTR.
Yeah, I mean, Hunor did an absolutely amazing job. I couldn't have done anything close to that. I'm good at copy pasting. I can make the same livery that we've ran for like 1.5 years. I can make that same livery like picture perfect on every single car, but anything unique, no. So Hunor, round of applause to him if anybody wants liveries, maybe he'll become a livery designer after this. Who knows?
Well, hopefully his inbox isn't too crammed full, because I do like that. It looks very nice indeed. It went from a gradient effect to more of a almost like a streaky pipe work effect is the original variant to this one. Sans the anime on this one for whatever reason, but it still looks very nice. What is your expectation for this season, the remainder of it? It's still a long season. It's only being round 3. Does VGR or VGTR rather, do you guys have relative pace and you've just not been able to show that up until qualifying today, or what's going on there?
I think the problem with this is so we do kind of have expectations. Obviously, you know, finish top 5 most races, and because we do have the pace. It's more the problem of actually practicing, because a lot of the times, unless it's a special event, unless it's like a 12 hours of Sebring or 24 hours of the Nordschleife or something like that, we kind of like to go into a race with maybe like maximum 2 days of practice, which isn't the greatest amount. I know that most of these guys do like way more than all of us, so we do have the pace. Whenever we actually practice for a while. Oh my god, what just happened to that GTP? Whenever we do practice, there is that pace, but yeah, no, we just need the time in order to improve that pace. But expectations wise, right now, what we're sitting P5 in the championship. If we can finish in the top 5 in the championship, that'd be pretty cool. But we're not expecting anything special.
Well, I make it sound like it's a disaster, and I do apologize for that. You are averaging a top 5 finish. What I'm actually asking is, what I was attempting to ask was, what's keeping you from being a challenger for a win here, and is it on the cards here in these final 4 rounds?
I'd say on some of the tracks. I'm not going to say which ones, but there is at least 2 tracks where I think we could be definitely very close to challenging. I mean, depending on how the other cars play, drive. But what is keeping us from being a challenger in most of these races is genuinely just practice. We do maximum like 50 laps of practice per, like, in front of every single race. So yeah, we just need to increase the amount of practice and increase the amount of like attentiveness in a way as well. Like some very small mistakes, like pit speeding or getting X's, or maybe going a little bit too aggressive on another car. So yeah, it's the small things really.
So is this a team of mates, or can you tell us about the team dynamic?
I mean, we're all pretty equal, and well, in terms of team dynamics, we're all pretty equal. We like to just more, drive, have fun. We are doing this competitively more now than we were before, but it's still more of a, hey, do you guys want to do this championship just for fun, just to see where we end up? Oh yeah, why not? Oh, there's even money on the line. Yeah, why not? Maybe we'll practice like a little bit more. But yeah, as like the team owner and team manager, I don't particularly like to push people past their like breaking points and be like, if you guys don't win these next 2 races, I swear I'm gonna come to your house and anything. But like, yeah, it's pretty much just having fun when needed. Like, if it's special events, then we take it way more seriously. Like, there's a lot more screaming, a lot more shouting at each other going on.
Well, you're not far outside the money. Top three positions in both classes at the end of the championship get some monetary incentive, some prize money, of course. You're not far out of that. And by the way, you've gained yet another spot. Joe Dauber's Rebound Racing Ferrari has had some spot of drama, and that's dropped them not only out of 8th place, it's dropped them all the way down to 10th. So Zachary Bowman for VGTR Esport now, beautiful Mustang, is up into 8th place again. So not all lost here in the going today. But talking to Artemi, and he is the team owner and principal of VGTR. I've got to ask what the acronym VGTR stands for.
So originally we were a league, and the acronym is actually pretty simple and pretty dumb. It's Virtual GT Racing. That's it.
That's not dumb at all. I like that.
I don't know. It's just a little bit simple, right? I was like, at the time of making it, I was like, well, what are we doing? We're doing virtual GT racing. Yeah, that's it. So, yeah, that's it.
Absolutely. I got to say, I do like it. I like the car. I like the livery. I'm American. I do apologize for that, but I do love the Mustang. We wish you the very best of luck. You've averaged the top 5. You're driving back to the top 5 as we speak. Before we let you go, Artemi, anyone you want to shout out, give thanks to out there?
All my teammates, everybody who's part of the team and has been racing with us for nearly 2 years now. Absolutely big thanks to them, and thanks to all the sponsors that support us and give us the love that we need. But yeah, thank you so much, guys, and I hope you have fun commentating the last hour of this race.
We absolutely will. Artemi Illen, everybody, the VGTR team captain, the number 14 Mustang, driving back up the field. Good luck.
Thank you.
Well, John, I thought it was coming into pit lane, maybe because of the weird nature of the racetrack, coming into pit lane, having to take that hard left-hand corner, maybe didn't get on the limiter in time. But no, whenever they changed driver, the limiter popped off, which is a common problem. We see that happen in other series as well. That's what caught them out. That's what's putting them behind the 8 ball. But I will say they are responding. Bowman is responding. They're running comparable lap times, and they're picking up the pieces that everybody else is laying down. And by the way, there are many pieces to be picked up in today's race. They keep dropping like flies.
Yeah, absolutely. So a bit of a race of attrition, as we alluded to in the pre-show. The eSIM racing car back under tow towards the pit lane. Not sure what's happened to those guys. Meanwhile, it's getting a bit dicey towards the front. This is the battle for the race lead. This is Aguero and Ben Ford coming down into turn 2. Aguero covers off the inside. It's going to be a long lunge for Ben Ford around the outside, but the dirtier side of the road, of course, not the ideal line to be on. And Ben Ford chomping at the back of the VFT Esports entry. Closed down that gap, Jesse. That was 20 seconds or so, if memory serves me correct, when we went under the pit cycle. It's now down to half a second between the two, and we saw how close they got coming out of the last corner. And that is all thanks to traffic and traffic management and circuit map, top right-hand side of the screen. They've beaten the majority of it now, and it's clear running for, I would say, a good kind of 5 to 10 laps at least before they hit the next bit of traffic.
Yeah, this is very huge here. CRF has got new life. Ben Ford, who you may remember took the lead of the race early on in the outing and lost it, is now back in the position to take it again. And a huge lockup here from Tom Withus in the FTW Motorsports Cadillac has driven off the racetrack. And look, ladies and gentlemen, using the reverse gear in a race car. They almost always have them. You almost never see them used. Backing back onto the racetrack instead of trying to drive around with the really bad steering angles. Oh my goodness, huge there from the Hilton Nickerson Thomas Angus Sim Racing Mustang. They're many laps down, and their bad day just continues to get worse. We saw a similar incident involving a Mustang earlier on hitting that anti-cut curb, but here it is. Thomas Aguero, Ben Ford, VFT, and CRF respectively, both in Cadillacs. Oh, and it's gone wrong for the number 9 as they lost a little bit of ground right there. just going through some of the replays here of various incidents we've had throughout the day, and it goes to show you, just in the process of that interview with Artemi, all these things have happened, and Nicholson continuing to struggle. This on the Rahal straight, just smashing it into the wall. That's going to hurt the resale value.
Yeah, certainly going to affect the resale value of that Mustang. A whole new front end, more than likely needed there. We've got another replay here. This is the eSim Racing winter segment. Bit of a lazy spin, I would call that one, Jesse. Bit slow coming out of the last corner. Racing nublets through the gravel
this is
there,
dangerous.
and Speed Juice and Horseflow having to get around as well. Lots of gravel on the exit of the final turn there. As we've now got, this is Racing nublets. I think I saw this one during the interview. A bit of a miscommunication, I would say there. Yannick Ruoff giving the inside line, and the Racing nublets entry, Jake Mutit at the wheel, trying to check up in time, and kind of had to stand on the brakes a little bit kind of harder. The VGT-R car, we were just interviewing team owner Artemi just a moment ago, and they had to take avoiding action on that car. It looked like Ruoff left the space, and Mutit there hitting the wiper, trying to get the car back underway and back round again. It's Brian Cassidy, sorry, in the YouTube chat. It's a round to forget for them. Rebound Racing completely around Joe Dorber. Very uncharacteristic mistake there from the 777. We know Joe very quick in the realm of ACC, but struggling to get his hands together with iRacing. Lots of gravel spread over the track. Racing nublets again into the corkscrew, back end of the Cadillac going. Once again, we're seeing a lot of rear locking from these GTP cars, and maybe drift of the day for Jake Mutit there.
Yeah, it just goes to show you, and we're not even done. This is one more down in the Andretti hairpin for CRF, spinning around. This is the 69, of course, not the number 9 that spins it in the Andretti hairpin. Luckily, from this position, you can see what's coming and get it going back the right way. No further damage done, except weapons mandatory, gaining significant ground. It feels a little bit more safe, does Maciej Hyla in third place. All that considered, Aguero and Ford still going at it. VFT took the lead prior to the first pit stop of the race. Ben Ford has turned it on for CRF, though, and that car has refired back off. That was a humongous gap, like you said, and it has all but evaporated. Hard to say exactly what went on there. And while that was going on, I did notice the HWT car. HWT had a penalty. They have come in, they have served that penalty, and they have gone back out again. So they have used up their 20 incident points, mostly on track limits, I would assume. And they're back out there again, though they are just hanging on to the top 10 now.
Yeah, you can only assume it's going to be for off tracks, as we heard in the interview. It's 20 at Laguna Seca, quite easy to accrue. So we're nearly 2 hours into this race. So it's one of those things, isn't it? We're going to be at that point where lots of teams are teetering on the edge of the maximum points and just picking up a few there. Ready Set Sim, of course, title partner, title sponsor of the series, and putting together a small prize pool of money as well, which is very unheard of within sim racing these days. 400 euros on the line, I believe it is, for the top teams at the end of the series, coupled with an RCI trophy as well for the first time in RCI history. So it's fantastic to see. And we do have Joe Dorber's sim rig card this time, a very stark difference to the last one we saw. Of course, we saw lots of Moser gear, a DIY sim rig, a big single 45-ish, should we say, inch monitor, and this time we've got the kind of whole shooting gallery with the SimuCube wheelbase, Hoisingveld pedals, of course the Asher racing rim for Joe Dorber, and of course a branded sim rig underneath, and featuring not just triples, Jesse, but we got one up top as well for Joe Dorber.
Well, I think the problem with Joe Dauber's rig rundown presented by Ready Set Sim is that he doesn't have enough monitors. I think we can all agree that he could use more, but he's got the Asher, the SimuCube, the Huizenveld, and the Modus. system there. It looks very, very good indeed. It's very old school. This is something that I'm not going to say this is something you would have, John. You're younger than me, of course, I do believe. Are you? Are you older than me? There's no way. Jesus Christ is not as old as I am. I'll tell you that. But what I am going to say is that this is a very old school setup. Just a bunch of monitors, of course. Back in my day, they were in 4:3 instead of 16:9, but this is what you would do. You'd have a display on the top, and that would normally be whatever telemetry you're looking at, and you'd have 3 screens, one the center view, and they're getting very dicey here, and it's going to be contact between the two classes, the rebound racing car into Ben Ford, I do believe that was. That's going to be a huge time loss, and that's going to be huge throughout the course of this game. Joe Dauber did not want his rig rundown to include contact here. They're going to be too wide, too deep, and just a little touch, and that's all it took. Dauber spins out Ben Ford for CRF, and all that time gained by CRF has completely gone by the wayside. But that is the Ready Set Sim rig rundown of Joe Dauber.
Yeah, just had a little zoom on his title card as well. He's actually got some racing circuits on the wall, the kind of 3D printed kind of layout ones, just to add to the setup. There's a little button box down in the bottom right. I think Ted Edwards was alluding to something down there. And of course the coffee table on the right hand side for mouse and keyboard. So
it's such an old school setup. I love it.
Yeah, it's such an old school setup, isn't it? I get what you mean. Of course,
I
nowadays
feel
you get
super
things like
comfortable with that.
you get keyboard trays, mouse trays, you know, all of the kind of bolt-on aspects of it. But yeah, certainly very kind of basic, I would say, in the realm of what we could get.
Your current setup, John, is straight out of Star Trek. It's very, state of the art, very modern indeed. But there's something about me that just loves an old school setup. Here's a very modern setup. Tom Roberts for Wheelie Soul Racing down the pit lane has used up their 20 racing incident reports today. They will do pass through now, and that is a damn shame. They were up inside the top 10. They were looking really good. They're going to give all that time back. Tom Bryant has gone back through. Keep in mind that car had their penalty already served by Tom Bryant. And now these cars have 8 more additional incident points that they can accrue, whether that be through contact or track limits, before they get another drive-through. But here's the rig rundown of Tom Roberts. It's a Fanatec Podium Endurance rim, a Fanatec Direct Drive 2 base, Husenfeld sprint pedals, and SimLab GT1 Evo rig. Again, very Star Trek, very space age. Looks a bit like yours as well. Now, that is also a very wide monitor indeed. You know what the worst part about Tom is, though? He sits in that rig, and he turns into Tom Cruise. He's so handsome.
Very handsome man,
fella, handsome rig.
Tom Roberts indeed. Stream Deck, I think, as well, on the right hand side of the wheel.
Well, you gotta have the button box,
the illuminator panel, indeed, button box there. A little fan as well on the upright of, I think, the monitor stand.
Gotta have an aircon.
Gotta have that, definitely. Keyboard tray to the left hand side as well, very handy, and of course built-in mouse to the keyboard as well. So no need to have a mouse rattling around the sim, and a little Welsh flag creeping in the bottom right hand side of the shot. But yeah, nonetheless, a very good setup there from Tom Roberts in the Ready Set Sim rig rundown, kind of little segment we're doing here today, and we've still got a few more drivers to get through on that one as well, so plenty more where we're seeing that. Of course, partners we've not really touched on, but they've been revolving around in the bottom left hand side of your screen. Of course, Ready Set Sim, their goal is to simplify sim racing. Of course, in today's market, it can be very confusing to get begun in the realm of sim racing and get your first rig purchased and set up and all up and running. But their mission to simplify with their SimRig Builder on their website. I've had a bit of a play around, and it is rather simple to use. So if you are looking to get underway in sim racing, be sure to check out Ready Set Sim. Coach Dave Delta, faster lap times start with Delta, a setup and data analysis app for iRacing, ACC, LMU, and even Gran Turismo 7, which still boggles my mind. You can get telemetry out of a console these days. Available in 9 languages, giving you access to setups, racing line, and data analysis. Why not stay ahead of your rivals with Delta? You can find our affiliate link down below for that one. Greenman Gaming, a recently new partner for us here at RCI, where you can, of course, buy games and game keys with Greenman Gaming, getting the best prices, awesome bundles, and exclusive game deals daily. Again, their affiliate link found down below. IMB Racewear, who were a title sponsor, if you remember, of our RCI 6-hour community series, providing fully custom designs to allow sim and real-life racers to make the impact they've always wanted to. From gloves to socks to jackets, you can be sure that every piece is crafted with precision, style, and performance in mind, giving racers the confidence to stand out both on and off the track. Moser Racing, again, they've partnered with us for just over a year, I think now. It's been a little bit of time. We saw earlier on one of the rig rundowns, I think Yannick Roth electing the Moser R9 base. You can find their affiliate link down below as well. And last but no means least, a bit of a prestigious one, Motorsport UK Esports, where we're a recommended community. And I think some of the drivers in this series managed to find their way over from the Motorsport UK Esports Discord. So fantastic to see new faces. Of course, all their links can be found down below. All of our links as well can be found down below for RCI, including the website, which is the hub of everything RCI, and the Discord running alongside that one. Later on tonight, we've got Night Owl Hyper Sprint in LMU, where we lump all the hypercars into one championship and let them battle it out amongst each other.
I'm sorry, John. What's later?
Oh, sorry, Night Owl. Coming up later today.
Right, yeah.
Round 3 takes us. Round 3 takes us to Portimao. Sign-ups are still open if you do fancy a late sign-up for some LMU action tonight. 9 o'clock UK time. Server goes live if my memory serves me correctly. We've got an off here, though, before I run on to Monday's calendar. It's Harry Conway in the Speed Juice and Horseflow car. Just come out of the pit lane, so that's going to be another victim of cold tyres that we see this afternoon. Let's catch a race replay. Trying to go maybe around the outside of a GTP, locked it in, and unfortunately no grip on the rear end of that Porsche. Off into the gravel, very sensible, lets it roll back off the racing line before rejoining and bringing a plethora of gravel back onto the circuit. Monday, we're heading back to Assetto Corsa Competizione as we see a battle for the lead, actually, briefly there. Ben Ford taking a position from Adrian Galeo. Meanwhile, Heiler doing his best rally car impression through turns 3 to 4. He gets back underway. Again, possibly another victim of cold tyres. Out the pit lane he comes, just ahead of a GTD, and almost a one-to-one with what Harry Conway did. A little bit of a false sense of security. Made it further than Harry Conway did through the gravel trap, so that's the furthest off at turn 3 we have seen today. A bit of probably a lock-up, I'm going to assume, from the Cadillac, and that's coming through the pit lane. No, all under control in the pit lane there. Not sure what Ted spotted, but no harm, no foul that I can see on that one. Monday, we're heading to Assetto Corsa Competizione, of course, for the opening of our brand new Monday champ with the Lamborghini Super Trofeo. And what better circuit to kick off than Monza? We've got 21 sign-ups already with some strong names looking to take the title. Of course, come round 5 at Bathurst. And if hypercars in LMU aren't your forte, then why not give our Friday Championship a go with a focus on the GT side of the game. Round 3, that's next week now, of course, takes place into Lagos. That's your regular slot on RCI TV. Jesse, you and Katrina, I think, taking the LMU title from everyone, I would say.
Yeah, being very confused at Spa-Francorchamps mixed conditions in the last race, and it left all of us, Ted Edwards, our broadcaster too, slightly confused, but just an absolute brilliant race. The win was pretty much in doubt throughout, and there were comers and goers. Certainly it's what you like to see. A little bit like today's race, where you're just never quite sure what's going to happen. But I will say what has happened in the course of the pit stop cycle, bear in mind that was about an hour on the dot for the GTPs to come in. Almost all of the GT3s or GTDs, if you'd prefer, came in as well. And the reason for that is you don't really gain anything by running long. They could have gone longer in the GTD category, but that doesn't really benefit you. So just about everyone pitting on cue. Ben Ford pitted the CRF Motorsport Cadillac 1 lap earlier than Adrian Galeo brought VFT in, and despite there being a little bit of a gap between them, remember the issue that Ford had with the car in turn 11. They were able to take the lead. They did a 36.2 on pit lane to Galeo's 40.5. That was all it took. Ben Ford and CRF Motorsport have retaken the lead in GTP.
So exactly what was on the cards, I guess, for CRF today. Chunking away at the VFT entry after the pit stops, got the gap down from 20 seconds, made the pass and made the lead out now to nearly 6 seconds to the good. So things definitely going the way of the CRF car currently for Ben Ford in the number 9. Meanwhile, down in GTD, it's been relatively quiet, to be fair, but FTW Motorsport, Tom Hench still leading the way on that one. They've come down the lane last time, lap 46, so we're still due a few pit stops from the GTDs, at least as we see lapping getting very close there. Barry Morrison for the Clarity Racing entry, very heads-up driving to avoid the GTP up the inside. A little bit of a later turn in than maybe what he's used to on that one, crossing the line to make another lap. Yannick Ruoff in P3. He's recently taken his pit stop, lap 80. Of course, Barry Morrison, lap 77. So we should see those guys, in theory, go up through the order in a while. And another race replay here. Tom Weethas up at the corkscrew. We've seen a few troubles all day for the FTW Motorsport car here, getting it locked up on entry, having to jump down the gravel and bringing on a bit of debris towards the corner exit. One of the teams, Big Pig Racing, excited to get a little bit of airtime as they came down the pit lane, and P5 looking very good for those guys briefly, of course slipping down the order after their pit stop down to P9 currently for the number 18. A little bit more trouble though. Thomas Enger Sim Racing a bit wobbly through the last corner. We've seen a few rear lockups from this Cadillac so far, and just about managing to hold on to that one. Down into turn 2 they go. Bit of traffic ahead in the form of the Rebound Racing. Joe Dorber currently still at the wheel of the Ferrari, yet to take their last pit stop towards the end. Just over 40 minutes to go, Jesse. It's not a lot of time, but as we've seen, a lot can happen in such a short frame of time here at Laguna Seca.
It certainly is the case. By the way, if you're playing along at home, anyone that's pitted after lap 77 or after that, they can make it to the end, presumably if they put enough fuel in the car. They should be able, I'll use that terminology, they should be able to make it. All the cars that come in on lap 87, 86, those cars should be good. Any car that pitted on a lap that starts with a 4 almost certainly cannot. They are going to have to come in, and that includes a large part of the GTD field still yet to come in. Thomas Hench continues to lead for FTW. They came into this championship, or into this race, second in the championship. This would be huge for them. For CRF, they came in leading in the GTP category, and they have now retaken the lead. That's exactly what the doctor ordered for them. It's been sort of a so-so day for Clarity Racing and the 47, who came in the leader in GTD Motorsports on our championship timing board. But nevertheless, I got to ask you a question, John, about Garage 991 as we race around here. Yannick Ruoff, they come out of the gate incredibly strong. They led a lot of the opening portion. They've been sort of subdued after the first 20, 30 minutes of this race. They've slipped into third place, not really racing anyone. They're third in the championship. They're running third. Are you upset by that if you're a member of Garage 991, or are you taking this in stride because it could have been so much worse?
I think it's a mixture of emotions, isn't it? You know, it's one of those, it could have been better, it could have been worse kind of thing, if that makes sense. It's, you know, third isn't anything to be dissatisfied by, but again, it's what could have been had the start gone a bit more their way, had they kept that P1, had a GTP maybe not elbowed out of the way. It's going to be a tricky one for sure. Meanwhile, drama in the weapons mandatory camp. Black flag raised. That's another incident point kind of over tally. We think it's going to be for track limits once again. We'll have to see. Hyler does immediately peel down the pit lane. Interesting to note as well, a lot of these guys have done this race solo, is something I'm taking away from today. Jesse, Yannick Ruoff, been in the car since the beginning. Of course, Tom Hench for FTW Motorsport, he's been in since the beginning as well. And we've seen a few driver changes, of course, from the likes of Clarity Racing, Thomas Engers in Racing. Could fatigue be a part that's going to, come into stride? I know we're only 40 minutes away, but if you've already done qualifying, practice, and 2 hours of the race, you're going to be up to like nearly 3.5 hours of driving time at this point. Hopefully drivers were well rested before they did start their stint of 2 hours 40. But still, it's going to be a tricky thing compared to the lineups that are, able to cycle at least one driver through. It gives the other driver the break, and of course, they can kind of be a bit fresher towards the end of the race.
No, you're absolutely right, John. And that's sort of the thing about a race like this. When you do it by yourself, which you are allowed to do, by the way, they are allowed to. You could solo the entire championship if you're a madman and you decided to do that. But especially here, you're removing variables by having less moving parts, less drivers. Also, too, Laguna Seca is a track that you either love or you hate, and a lot of drivers, they don't get on with this racetrack. So sort of finding a comfort balance in your driver lineup's also a part of that, as I believe Tom Bryant maybe went off in turn 11 right there just now. But so I think removing variables is important. It's also so short, but you make a very good point. This is not Daytona. This is not like Le Mans. This is Laguna Seca. You are on it the entire time. The straightest straight here is the pit straight, which has 2 dog legs in it. So you never have realistic time. The lap is so fast. We're doing 1:21s around here. You never have time to let up at all. You're fighting traffic because it's a multi-class race. It is physically demanding. This 2-hour, 40-minute race feels closer to an 8-hour race at almost any other racetrack. I would akin it to being at Interlagos. It's a small Interlagos is how I would describe it to anyone else. It's a track that it will wear you out eventually because you're always turning. You're always having to think a corner or so ahead. It's demanding. There's not a lot of very fast sections that you go through where you can take your mind off. Every corner is calculated here at Laguna Seca, and you add another class that you're having to pass.
We live?
But you have all of those variables in the race, and it wears you out mentally. It's going to wear you out physically because it's Laguna Seca. It's hilly. It undulates. It's a flat track at certain points. You're wrestling the car. The tires get worn over. All of these things lead into mental and physical fatigue. It's like doing a race at the Nürburgring, except it's nothing like that, but the effect is almost exactly the same.
Yeah, it's interesting, of course, the lack of straights here at Laguna. It's one of those things that, places like Monza, lots of, you've got the main straight, you've got the straight up to Ascari, after Ascari. You can kind of relax, wind down, and, kind of switch off and think about what's going on in the next hour or so of the race. But when you're here at Laguna, especially if you're a GTP driver, you're constantly on edge with traffic. You have no let up, essentially, to relax and like wind down a bit. In this kind of race. So it is really a kind of race of attrition more than anything else. And some of the drivers soloing this, absolute, crazy. I could probably do the 2 hours, but combined with qualifying and practice, I'd probably like at least one teammate here. And like you say, Jesse, you can do the whole season solo, but there's a couple of 6-hour races in there. Of course, round 1 at Sebring, round 4 at Watkins at 6 hours. We've been a bit graced this week with the 2 hours 40. We've got another 2 hours 40 at Road America, so we might see a few more solo entries there. Indianapolis, 3 hours. Anyone's going to be slightly a bit more mad to attempt that one before 5 hours at Road Atlanta for the season finale. So, plenty of lineups to change along the way, and we do allow, I think, guest drivers or guest teams to turn up for certain rounds if they do want to. not compete in the whole season. So we might see a few new faces towards the end as well. Ben Ford, though, still out front, doing very well indeed, opening the gap to Adrian Galeo, 3.5 seconds nearly to the good now. It's a good, safe comfort margin to be in the weapons mandatory car, even after the penalty, still clawing on to P3 as Dvorak has to kind of be alert of the GTP lapping around him. And the 333 with another pass through, we're being told in our ears at the moment. So not going to be too good. Nearly getting there on the penalties. Black and white flag for Tom Weethas briefly there as well. And Tom Hench still leading the GTD class. Yannick Ruoff chasing him down. 1 minute 17 gap on the GTD leader. That's nearly a lap here, Jesse, that Tom Hench has managed to pull out across this last 2 hours, 10 minutes of racing.
No, you're right. Had they not needed to pit, they would have scored a chance to lap the field. But of course, they still have to pit. Remember what I said, any team that has last pitted, that's what the L number is in the right-hand corner of the screen there, or the timing and scoring. Anybody with a 7, they're good to go to the end. Anybody with a 4, they have to come in. They cannot make it. Everybody in the GTP category has already completed their final stop. A couple of hangers-on in the GTD class. This is going to be very interesting because Tom Hench might be able to keep the lead here because it's about a 40 here. If they don't take a lot of fuel, it could be about a minute, probably less. So if they're able to do that, they will absolutely hang on to the lead. I think FTW is going to hang on to the lead after this pit stop. But I was talking about Yannick Ruoff earlier. And I was talking about Garage 991. Would this sort of be a letdown for them? But now they're up in P2, solidly so. I don't think this is a letdown for them anymore. And as if on cue, Tom Hench down to the pit lane for FTW, the Ford Mustang, to the attention of the team. They had a minute 16 to play with, John.
Yeah, minute 16 should, in theory, put them quite safe in the realm compared to Yannick Ruoff. 56 seconds roughly from in to out for Ruoff, 58 for Barry Morrison. So you're looking at a mid-50s to a minute-ish, let's say, speculating, of course, comms box math up here. In theory, Tom Hench should hold on by about 10 seconds or so on this one. Of course, a little bit of traffic ahead in the form of Petalin in the Big Pig Racing by VRS Blue entry, a very striking livery. I think there's a pig on the side of the car and on the bonnet of the car. And when I asked how big is the pig, we're in 5th today, so he's pretty big, is the pig today. And it's a big pig right there as we see Tom Hench coming out the pit lane. He's already at pit exit. Yannick Ruoff, of course, way still back in the lap. He's not even made it through the last corner yet from what we're seeing on the circuit map. Number 2 just coming down the final corner, out of the final corner towards the line. So 36 seconds Tom Hench is safe from Yannick Ruoff. As you can see the pit times there, 43.5 for Hench, 56.9. And it's interesting, isn't it, because the later you go in that middle stint, Jesse, the less fuel you're going to have to put in for the final stint, which in theory should make that pit stop a little bit shorter. And I think that's exactly what the FTW Motorsport crew have done here today.
That is what they did, and that's kind of what I was theorizing, that their pit stop wasn't going to look like everyone else's because they did come in a little bit later. They had to take on less fuel, and I said earlier that I didn't think it would matter that much, but it did for FTW. Nobody else really erring on the side of that strategy, electing to come out early and do a 45-minute stint. Not so, only a 30-minute stint here now for Tom Hench and FTW, who look like they're in a commanding lead here. 37 seconds the gap for that Mustang, and they are unopposed. Yannick Ruoff for Garage 991, also unopposed in P2. Barry Morrison for Clarity Racing, the 47 Mercedes, as we have brand parity in the top 3 in the GTD classification. Ben Ford not driving away from Adrian Galeo in GTP. However, the VFT driver has kept the CRF Motorsport driver very, very honest here. 3 seconds is nothing. Get held up by traffic, and it could all go wrong. And is that another black flag for HWT and GTD? I think it might be.
Yeah, potentially so. Another black flag there for Tom Bryant. Very unfortunate. Probably being too greedy, I would say, with track limits. The VGTR team alluding to 20x is quite easy to pick up here. And, of course, Tom Bryant immediately down the lane to clear that, that penalty off the board. He'll slip down, in theory, I would say maybe even behind Tom Roberts, or at least bring Tom Roberts into the battle. We'll have a battle of the Toms on our hands for the final stage of the race.
I think he'll stay just in front of him. Actually, it won't be even that close because it's just a pass through. It's going to be 20-some seconds. But even still, they've already used up their 20 incidents. That was the further 8 incidents that we talked about. Now it gets reset again. If they get 8 more incidents in 27 minutes, they will have yet another penalty. And John, you and I are not clairvoyant. We cannot read people's minds, but we know Tom Bryant a little bit. And I think we know what he may have said after picking up that final track limit that got yet another black flag. And it started with a H, probably ended with a K.
Yeah, I can imagine it was, something to that nature, indeed. But Zachary Bowman been doing a fantastic job through this little stint to try and claw back the lost track position within the VGTR camp from the pit limiter incident earlier on. And he's now latching onto the back of Johannes Tretman, who has been there for the remainder of the race, and just looking to the top end of the GTPs and GTDs. A lot of fast laps coming in at the moment, so drivers probably really settling into their stints now. Fresh tyres, a lighter fuel load, especially for Tom Hench to get to a 121.5 is now his fastest lap. That goes to a 122.1, so maybe a little bit of traffic. I think P4 possibly.
215 is approaching qualifying pace, John.
It's not far off, is it? So yeah, certainly some pace in the FTW Motorsport car. We spoke earlier on about driver fatigue and, of course, people falling off the pace, but Tom Hench has certainly ramped up the pace in the last 10 minutes or so since coming out of the pit lane.
Well, Joe Dauber for Rebound Racing has joined us in YouTube chat to vent his frustration about the day, and well, I can't repeat it, but it's been a bit plops for them, rather unfortunately. Hello to Les, who's joined us as well a little bit earlier on. A little rally safari for the weapons mandatory Cadillac with Maciej Hyla behind the wheel. No harm, no foul. We've seen that more often than not here. Cars going off, just lucky to keep it going in a straight line. Adrian Galeo, remember, last checked in with him 2 laps ago. They were 3 seconds off of the lead, and now they're 1.5 seconds. They've cut that gap in half. A 14.3, the quickest of all GTPs the last round ago. Mateus Lucek for Thomas Angus Sim Racing has a black flag, and that car looks damaged, so it's insult to injury. There's been contact with a wall or another car. Either way, it's a black flag, and they'll need to repair that car. I don't think you can do both at the same time. Humongous snap right there. And I'm going to go ahead and say the car was already broken at that point.
Yeah, very big snap there as we ride on board coming through turn 9. Of course, as you alluded to, Jesse, the car's loaded up out of the corner. A bit of a twitch, a bit of a wiggle, goes to catch it, and the car violently snaps back the other way, stands on the brake pedal. Big flat spotted tires there on the Cadillac as well. No ABS, remember, as he plants the brake pedal to the floor to try and get it stopped to avoid another off track. But such a wild snap right in front as well of Tom Bryant. He probably didn't know which way to go. Does he go left? Does he go right? Decides to go under the Cadillac in the end, and probably the safe space to go. We've got another replay here of the VGTR. Zachary Bowman up the inside of Johannes Tretman, struggling to get it stopped in time. A little bit of a hip and shoulder, a bump and run in front of Hyla as well. P3 currently in the GTP category, and he having to avoid some action in front of him. And it's the magic of multi-class that we're seeing here as two cars begin to battle. A third one decides to join in from a completely different category that will be unaffected by the fight ahead of them. But nevertheless, everybody navigating around successfully, and Trapman probably going to be feeling a little bit hard done by the VGTR Mustang. But again, GT racing is becoming a bit like touring car racing these days, Jesse. There's a lot of bumping and running from many teams across the globe in WEC and in IMSA, I would say.
Yeah, I've always been a champion of the rubbins racing kind of thing, and if you don't want to get your elbows out, or you don't want to be moved, then don't block people. I think I think the problem is that if you leave space and they still do it, I think that's a bit of a problem unto itself. But perhaps where it all goes a bit wrong. But there's a limit. There is a loose limit on how much is too much, and that car was already missing its wing as we go into the rainy corner. Harry Conway has got a meatball, and I worry that for Tom Weethus, the two are related. The sister FTW car, the 95, missing a rear wing. And we'll see exactly what went wrong here for everyone. This is, unfortunately, going to be related. Conway trying to make a move. Oh, Conway gets punted in the rear by one of the Ferraris. Theobald Roscom, I believe that was. Conway kind of gets away with it, except they had a meatball, so something aero broken in that car. And Tom Weethus didn't have a rear wing. I don't know if he even knew that at the time, but takes an additional spin there. Both those cars in the pit lane, the Speed Juice and Horseflow car and the FTW 95.
A little bit of a strange one there for sure. I'm not sure why Harry Conway
Snooker
had the
shot
meatball
right
flag,
there, wasn't it?
But yeah, certainly Roscam, of course, bumping Conway into Weethas, and Weethas's wing kind of detaching. Conway maybe broken rear axle. Ted Edwards is alluding to in our ears for us. Of course, the damage system in iRacing slightly more complex than what we see in ACC in comparison. Let's have a look. Riding on board here, Ferrari comes into the rearview mirror in the back. Conway manages to catch it, points it the right way, gets back underway indeed. A little bit of a wiggle of steering just to feel it out. Weethas spins, of course, off to the right. Car looks relatively settled. I can't really see any issue on this car. It's a bit of a strange black flag for sure. There's no bits missing. Oh, bit of a bump there to Roscam as he came into the lane. I'm wondering if that's going to push him over the pit speed limit. I don't think it does. But yeah, bit odd. It looks like Conway's steering wheel slightly pointed to the left, maybe. But it's ever so slight, Jesse. I can't see the meatball flag reason on that car personally. But iRacing has detected something that, of course, we can't see up here in the comms box.
No, there's no fluid dynamics in this sim, except that if he spun that thing backwards and maybe blew, I'm using air quotes, an oil line off the car, and it's something invisible that we can't see, could it have been something like that where it was, quote, dropping fluid, even though it isn't? Some kind of almost terminal damage, if you will, to the car. I have no idea. If it's not that, I'm completely clueless as to why they were meatballed, but the car that was missing the entire rear clip was only black flagged for track limit warnings. Battle for P3 in the GTD category anyways, being won by Barry Morrison for the number 47. They came in your championship leaders, and here come the overall leaders as they're going to have to cycle through this, and they're going to have to do this very tactfully, and they certainly will catch them in a great spot off of turn number 3 and mostly get clear. A little bit more impeded is Adrian Galeo here, but that car has steadily made progress and has steadily shown us that they are the faster of the two cars. Bin Ford has been in this position before, and my guess is they're going to be incredibly defensive here. Ford was able to fend off Galeo earlier on, but John, it's 18 and a half minutes to the flag. That is a long old time to be in defense mode.
Yeah, we say 18 and a half minutes. It's not a lot of time in reality, but in terms of Laguna Seca, of course, a minute 15 a lap, that's still quite a few more times you've got to go around the circuit, especially with the GTDs trying to tie up the last of their fights. Of course, as you said, Barry Morrison and Dvorak fighting for essentially P3. Tom Hench way out front. He's unfazed by Yannick Ruoff now, 47 seconds, and that gap keeps on building as Ruoff just kind of falls off the pace a little bit on the older tyres. Dvorak is on fresher tyres compared to Barry Morrison, assuming, of course, both drivers did take a set of tyres in their last stop. Lap 77 for Morrison, lap 89 for Dvorak. So the Mustang should be a little bit better through the corners, we'd like to say, speculating up here in the box. And we have a look at the pit stop times. Of course, Dvorak pitting a little bit later, able to put less fuel in the car, so 4 seconds quicker down the lane than Morrison was. And Tom Hench, of course, 22 seconds nearly down the lane for his stop. So relatively speedy is the FTW Motorsport car, pitting lap 93, one of the last pit stoppers in the GTD category. GTP, as you alluded to, of course, Ben Ford out front, second to the good, although relatively close. Adrian Galea ready to pounce should a mistake be made. Heiler a minute 10 off the back of them, nearly a minute 12 actually now as they come through. But on your screen right now, Theobald Roskam riding on board with in the Ferrari 296 for Rebound Racing. Ahead of him, Tom Bryant in the HWT Mustang, as that's Heiler coming through on these two. And GTPs have to be careful, Jesse, don't they? Of course, cars are still fighting for position, even in this late stage of the race. And, you know, racing drivers don't want to give up a position if they really don't have to. So I'm sure Roskam will be thirsty for this extra position. I mean, it's for P8. It's nothing prestigious in the realm of podiums. You know, we're not battling for P1, 2, or 3 here, but still good chunk of championship points on the line should Roskam get through Bryant at this stage.
Yeah, the thing is, this is the reverse of the earlier battle. Remember when HWT was catching Theobald Roskam, Tom Bryant now in the opposite position. Roskam now trying to get back by the HWT car for Rebound Racing. They've swapped positions. They've both had issues in today's race with penalties and incidents, and now they find themselves facing each other again. What is that old saying? What is old becomes new again, and old rivalries reignited. We had Joe Dauber in the chat earlier today, 2 hours ago, talking about, like, could you please tell them to not? And now it is the opposite case. Rebound Racing finds themselves behind HWT, Mustang versus Ferrari, and for my money, Theobald looks like the quicker of the two cars. How wide can Tom Bryant make the number 42 Mustang? We're going to find out. Talk about having to defend for 18 minutes, having to defend for 15 minutes is what's going to be on the cards here for Tom Bryant. Theobald, though, I don't think they're going to press too hard, but all it's going to take is Tom Bryant one move, one mistake, one sort of hold-up position, almost like that. I think Roskam is going to have a go at it. But you're correct in the other thing you were talking about too, John. You were talking about how in this race, the GTPs, they need to sort of be mindful, but you all need to be mindful. If you're in this fight, if you're Theobald or Tom, you need to be mindful as well that, look, you're going to get caught by GTPs. What is the most advantageous for any situation? What is the most advantageous place for me to give up time without giving up a position? If Theobald lets them go, should I just let them go as quickly as I can too? To, you know, if it benefits me versus them, et cetera, and so forth. It goes back and forth. And while we have that fight for 8th place, we still got the fight for P3, Dvorak for Thomas Enga. Man, they have had an up and down day in this team, but to get a potential podium for Wojciech Dvorak, that would almost feel like a win for the number 34 Mustang.
Yeah, absolutely. So it would be very good, wouldn't it, for Dvorak to make up that last position to throw the Thomas Enger Sim Racing, at least one of the Thomas Enger Sim Racing cars, onto a podium. Of course, the 88 has had trouble all day. The sister Mustang car equally not having the best afternoon today, and Brian Cassidy here with another black flag. The Racing Nublets afternoon has gone from kind of bad to worse to kind of worser at this point, if that's even a word. So Ryan Cassidy will be back down the lane to serve that penalty and hopefully not lose too much more time. We've got a race replay here from Ted Edwards. This is the lead GTP fight, and Theobald Roskam loops himself round on lapped traffic that's trying to make their way through. So Theobald Roskam losing a bucket load of time there. 8 seconds is the gap on that one. So I think the Rebound Racing HWT fight has been dashed before it's kind of even began. But this fight still very much alive between Barry Morrison and Dvorak. We saw Dvorak try the outside last time in the final turn. Morrison plonks his car in the middle of the road. We've got a bit of lap traffic coming through as well in the form of the FTW Motorsports entry. They make up another position on the Racing Nublets entry. Equally so, nearly on pace, Philip Engman been lurking kind of quietly in the background. He slots himself up the inside of this fight, so that's going to put Dvorak on the dirty side of the road, losing more time to the back of Barry Morrison, and that's going to give the Mercedes a little bit of breathing room now as they come between turns 4 and 5. But equally, Morrison going to lose out. Up the inside goes Engman for the nearly on pace Cadillac, and whoa, very dicey there. That's the 88. That's actually the sister car, the Thomas Enger GTP entry, and friendly fire is something we definitely don't want to see here. It looks to the inside of Barry Morrison, thinks better of it through turn 7. That would have been rather dicey to get 2 GT cars around that, oh sorry, GTD and a GTP through that corner together. And of course the ebbs and flows, how it goes, Jesse. The gap closing it back up ever so slightly as they come through the corkscrew. But Morrison, for a half a lap or so, a bit of breathing space in the Clarity Racing car.
I'll tell you what, Mateusz Bluchek just about put that car back into the garage, trying to give Wojciech Dvorak all the room possible to not even be close to them off of that corner, and nearly stuffed it off into the dirt, and that would have almost certainly been a spin due to loss of traction there. But they didn't want to have any sort of, they wanted to make sure they had the entire track width between the two of them, is what was going on there, and almost ended in disaster. Anyway, being too courteous is also a thing that you can and do often have to worry about. Back to the race lead. CRF still leading VFT, but only by half a second. This is all that's in it, folks. The final 11 minutes of the 2-hour, 40-minute race here at Laguna Seca, presented by Ready, Set, Sim. And this is what you've got, a battle for 10 minutes between Ben Ford and Adrian Galeo. VFT Esports has taken the lead. They've lost the lead, and they're looking to get it back again. This has been a back-and-forth fight between these two Cadillacs all day. They're the only two that have a realistic shot of winning this race. Almost everyone else in their class is a lap down. I think there's only one other car, and that's Maciej Hyla for the weapons mandatory car, that's still on the overall lead lap in GTP. But it is going to be a battle here. CRF, Ben Ford trying to navigate traffic, trying to keep Adrian Galeo behind defensive line up at the top of the hill in the corkscrew. Oh, and there are 4 cars on the lead lap. Michael Palka for CRF, the sister car, also on the lead lap, but only just.
Yeah, only just indeed. And of course, we've got just under 10 minutes to go. So if Adrian Galeo wants to do something, he is running out of time, and it needs to be done soon. The gap opening up ever so slightly as we catch a race replay. This time, Tom Roberts down into turn 2. Let's have a look what happened here. A bit of a half lazy spin, kind of overcooked it ever so slightly. Tried to rejoin, got very close indeed. Harry Conway having to navigate around in the Speed Juice and Horseflow car, but a black flag for Tom Roberts there. That'll probably be a drive-through penalty, I would say. Should be back out relatively no time at all. Meanwhile, Dvorak still chomping at the back of Barry Morrison, and we saw in Sebring Morrison doing a great defensive job in that Mercedes. There's a bit of gravel down at the corkscrew, been dragged on by somebody. I can only assume that's going to be a GTP at some point. We've seen lots of action up at the top of the hill from those guys, lots of rear locking as the car comes over the crest, and I think Morrison just putting that Mercedes exactly where it needs to be, covering off the kind of middle ground of the final turn, knows that's going to be a popular passing place as we catch a race replay of weapons mandatory, this time coming down into the final turn, and losing the rear. As we were speaking about rear locking, Jesse, perfect demonstration there, catching up, unfortunately, one of the, I think it's the Thomas Enger sim racing sister car Mustang there, just in the background, losing a bit of momentum as they have to check up coming out of the final turn. Towards the top end of the hill, though, nearly on pace, and Thomas Enger Sim Racing. There's a big touch from Thomas Enger Sim Racing. Engman goes round, keeps it out of the wall, but does end up in the gravel and ends up with a black flag as well. So what was looking so good for nearly on pace, starting from the back of the GTD field, managing to fight their way back up into what was P5, I think, getting turned around at the top of the hill through no fault of their own. The gravel trap doing exactly what it needs to do, stopping Engman before he hit the wall, and that is why the corkscrew is covered in gravel as that Cadillac kind of comes back onto the circuit, of course dragging on all of the debris as we capture another replay, this time down into the corkscrew. The 296, that was very close, nearly into the back. I think that's the CRF white entry. Michael Opoka at the wheel of that one. That was very dicey for the number 13 eSIM Racing. And then the race leaders came through as well towards the end of that replay. That's allowed Galeo now to close up to the back of Ben Ford once again. And I was going to say, it's only going to take one bad run through traffic for Ben Ford to lose this lead. Galeo is within striking distance.
The racetrack. They've given up a spot to Harry Conway, who's somehow back in the top 5 for speed juice in Horseflow. What happened to Mateus Bluchek, I don't know. Oh, they're locking up the wheels there in the corkscrew. I wonder if that's what happened here. They're all by themselves, and then all of a sudden they lose a ton of time. They just drive off the circuit. They lock up the wheels, and they drive off the circuit. Speed Juice and Horseflow go through in the Porsche.
So much drama in the last 10 minutes, Jesse. We thought this was all wrapped up, and it just keeps coming. This time, the CRF Motorsports car. Drift of the day, maybe through turn 4. Very well held from the McLaren, and back underway. The 369 goes, and back to the race lead. This time it's Galeo still sniffing at the back of the CRF Motorsports car. The traffic ahead, it's the battle for the podium. Barry Morrison and Dvorak. This is the fight for GTD, the fight for the lead here in GTP. Headlights ablaze for Ben Ford as he takes to the left-hand side of the circuit. Make sure he's spotted, because these cars, when they get in a train, Jesse, you look in your mirror, you can only see one of them if the other is tucked behind, and suddenly there's two of them coming through as Philip Engman now exits the pit lane in front of the race leaders. So lots of traffic coming at them thick and fast, and Ben Ford still holding on through everything at the moment, but Galeo is so close to getting that top step of the podium.
These two have to be incredibly careful here, because remember, there's the invisible menace of racing incident points here, and if you go over the limit of that, if VFT goes into the back of CRF, that could be all she wrote for both of them. Ford and Galeo are going to need to do this respectfully. But I got to ask you, John, if you are Adrian Galeo, how bad do you want this? You've raced so hard up at the front of this field. How much does it mean to you winning this race if it could cost you everything? Like, we assume you've got to be close on incident point limits. How hard do you race them? How much do you want this? It's almost like putting a steak in front of a hungry dog, I would assume. But still, you've got to be incredibly careful here, because again, anything like that, just little contact like that between these cars who are racing for third and GTD, that could be all she wrote for a penalty for our top two in GTP. Meanwhile, Morrison does defend Dvorak, and the 47 stays out in front of the Tama Inga number 34, the 47 and 34 respectively, driving each other quite hard indeed, just like they are at the front. I think I saw Ford and Galeo touch ever so slightly. That's what I'm worried about. I'm worried about maybe touching. So I throw it to you. My question remains, if you're Adrian Galeo, you've qualified on pole, you've led this race, you've lost the lead, you took it back, you lost it again. How bad do you want this win? How much does it mean to you in the grand scheme of things? How much do you risk?
Yeah, that's exactly it, isn't it? You know, do you want to unravel an afternoon of hard work at this stage, or are you happy and content with just taking away P2? It's still going to be a good haul of points nonetheless. But again, could you get that top step of the podium? Could you get a few more points for your championship effort? It seems to kind of ebb and flow between these two. There's parts where Ben Ford is a lot stronger. There's parts where, of course, Adrian Galeo is a lot stronger. So, you know, it's wins and losses as Yannick Ruoff in the Garage 991 car, staying way out of the way, staying predictable. And it looks like maybe Ben Ford might get the jump on the Ferrari through turn one. Meanwhile, Dvorak still buried in the back bumper of that Mercedes. Barry Morrison, the widest Mercedes, I would say, on the circuit at the moment, putting up a valiant effort in defense, just as he did at Sebring, to keep their hopes alive in round one, and covering off the inside. Dvorak very late, literally Barry Morrison parking it on the apex. I don't think, you know, you could do much more than that. If you're in Morrison's shoes, you're on older tires, you need to make that Mercedes as awkward to get around as possible. And if it means parking it on the apex, Jesse, that's exactly what you're going to do, aren't you? If you're Barry Morrison, you don't want to give up that podium. You want maximum points for your effort. And Dvorak, a very quick driver, and you know you've got to put up a very good defense against him.
You certainly too. Matthias Bluchek has repassed Harry Conway for P5. The Thomas Anger car back up to P5. The battle for the overall lead has cooled down just a little bit. Ford over Galeo, nothing changing there. Barry Morris has made that Mercedes incredibly wide versus Voce Dvorak, and everything kind of stabilizes for the time being with 2 minutes left to go. But if I had to hazard the guess, and I will do, I think Adrian Galeo for VFT is just reloading for one final push here in the final couple of laps. Meanwhile, this battle has reignited to the outside. The 34 Dvorak just trying to get any position on Morrison, unable to do it. He ends up single file down the pit straight once more. Matthias Bluchek's gone around. Black flag for them. They've gone off of the racetrack. Conway promoted up to 5th in the Speed Juice and Horseflow car. Thomas Enga has got another drive-through. They've gone off the racetrack. Where they assisted here, though, doesn't look like it. Nowhere near anyone else. Locked it up, spun it around, and ended up getting off-track incident points. And that was enough for a drive-through penalty. See, that's exactly what I was worried about with the leaders, but Galeo unable to get back to him, John, unable to get close enough to Ford to cause him any sort of trouble right now.
Yeah, Ford has extended that gap out. It's over a second now. All he's got to do, last minute to go, and race leaders are crossing the line for their final lap of the race. White flag is currently out, 50 seconds on the clock. Time is running out for these two as well, Morrison and Dvorak. Dvorak keeps trying the final turn on the outside. It's yielding nothing. Morrison's parking that car in the middle of the road. He's blocking the apex entirely. He knows that the Mustang can't get the overrun off the corner, and it's almost like watching a replay. Every lap, Morrison plonks it in the middle of the road. Dvorak tries to go the long way around, draws alongside, can't turn in to hit the apex. And we go once again. Could Dvorak get the run over the hill of turn one, down into turn two? I don't think he's going to be close enough to send it at this stage. Morrison knows that's the only chance he's probably got. Covers off the inside very nicely, drags the Mercedes tight around the Andretti hairpin, and opens it up towards turn three. The gap is half a second, and it's going to be a very big ask, I think, at this stage to do so, as the race leaders just coming out of the corkscrew through turn 9 into turn 10 they will go. And I think it is CRF indeed in the background there. You see VFT Esports. Adrian Galeo did all he could, but it wasn't enough this time to beat CRF Motorsports GTP entry. Ben Ford across the line will take the top step of the podium today, followed very closely by Adrian Galeo, and immediately stopping, drawing himself back to the pit lane. Dvorak with a black flag in the last lap. What he tried to do, he couldn't get done, and it's going to be a penalty for the Mustang. Tom Hench takes the top step of the GTD podium. Yannick Ruoff, despite all that happened, still manages to take P2 in solo efforts within the GTD category from both drivers. And Barry Morrison doing just enough to fend off that Ford Mustang of Thomas Enger Sim Racing. He'll take the third step of the podium for Clarity Racing, number 47. And of course, the penalty, I can only assume, will be added on after the race for the number 34. But this man here, the number 96 of Tom Hench, I thought he already crossed the line, but he hadn't. That's how commanding his lead is. He will cross the line. Sister car in the background of Tom Weethas. Battle of the Toms this afternoon for FTW Motorsport. Hyler will come through in third for weapons mandatory. That's a very good run for those guys. And the sister CRF car will take P4. Michael Opauka, for the remainder of the afternoon. And of course, a few more drivers yet to take the checkered flag. I think everybody now has finished. They have indeed, as we cut to the sunset B-roll that we took earlier on yesterday. Jesse, we alluded to in the broadcast in the pre-room before we came on air that we thought this would be a bit of a quiet race. Laguna can lead to, those stale fights, but throughout the whole thing, we have had nothing but action this afternoon, and we haven't really had a chance to take a break at all.
Yeah, everybody at home, join us in the booth. Breathe in and breathe out. All the cars across the line for the final time. You either have two races here at Laguna. You have a by the numbers, no frills sort of race, or you have a race that never settles into a groove. It never calms down, and there's chaos on every corner. Today, we definitely got the latter, but you have to say a couple of deserving winners in the two different classes. Wins where we needed to have them, of course, for FTM and that Ford Mustang. They are now back or in control of this championship points wise. That's exactly what they needed in GTD. If it was anything for the number 9 Cadillac team, they didn't need to win today, but this helps grow their championship lead. And look who they were racing against, their nearest rival in the championship. So they needed technically to win to keep the championship lead. Job done. It is, however, a very small championship lead as we're nearing the halfway point in the season, John, and nothing has been decided yet. I tell you what I've decided. I've decided Laguna Seca puts on heart-stopping, incredible racing, a couple of fantastic battles for the overall win, and one for the final step of the podium in GTD. What more could you ask for at the end of 2 hours 40 of racing?
Yeah, absolutely. So, within the good moments, the highs of the race, there's certainly been a few lows for various teams along the way. Racing Nublets looking so good in the early stage. It all come unraveled in the midsection. And I think we do have the final race results to bring you. Of course, it is pending any further, stewards' inquiries that may be ongoing. But GTP on your screens at the moment. Of course, it was the CRF team taking the top step, VFT in P2, and then weapons mandatory, another good run in P3. We had CRF, Speed Juice and Horseflow, Thomas Enger Sim Racing nearly on pace. They managed to claw back some positions after their detrimental qualifying, of course, put them at the back of the GTD field. FTW Motorsport, Racing Nublets, Holker Brighton Sim Racing that we saw with a big incident earlier on in turn number 7, and eSim Racing in the number 28, of course, in that order. And we do have one of the drivers joining us today, Jesse. We have Yannick Ruoff joining us on the GT3 class. Garage 991 finishing in P2, just behind the FTW Motorsports red entry, of course, Clarity Racing, Thomas Enger Sim Racing, Big Pig Racing creeping up into the top 5, VGTR. They say we spoke to the team principal earlier on, not the ideal race for them with the pit limiter malfunction. TTM, HTW, Rebound Racing, Wheelie Slow Racing, and of course CRF, eSim Racing Winter segment, the Thomas Enger Sim Racing Academy entry, and the old Chad's Racing Orchard DNF there with, of course, the big incident we saw through the rise of turn 1. And of course, the number 72 at the end. But we do have Yannick Ruoff joining us. Yannick, welcome to the booth. Of course, it was a tricky afternoon, I would say, for you. We had a good start, not so good in the kind of middle segment. Of course, rumored to be a GTP incident, put you on the back foot. But then, of course, clawed it back at the end. Second step of the podium. Very well done indeed.
Yeah, thank you, guys. To be honest, I'm a bit gutted. I was really hoping for the P1, but now getting second is pretty solid. But with this amount of of gap to P1, it's quite disappointing. So yeah, as you said, qualifying went to plan. Got to a pole position. I was very pleased with my lap and quite surprised because I had like 3/10 to P2. I was not expecting that. Yeah, so great quali, great start, but from then on it all went a bit downhill. Especially the traffic in the first stint. I got very unlucky like 3 times, which set me back to P3. But yeah, that's multi-class racing. Sometimes it gives, sometimes it takes, and today it took quite a bit of me. But yeah, even without the traffic incidents, the FTW car was just too fast. There was no chance to hold them back the whole race, I think. So yeah, congrats to them. Just keep work harder to maybe catch them next time, and yeah, just keep going and hope for the best in the next races.
Well, Yannick, we were talking early in the race where it looked like in qualifying it went well, and in the race you got shuffled back, but you made your way back towards the front. You finish in the top 2. You get really good points. Of course, you and FTW both did your parts today to narrow down the championship race. So you're well and truly, you were never out of it. You were third in the championship. You may still be, but the points gap is smaller now after today's race. How do you like your chances going forward as we enter the mid part of the season?
I like our chances because the next tracks suit our car very well, I think. But I also thought about this track, so yeah, we just have to have to train hard and just be a bit quicker next time around. Because I think also the AMG behind they had quite a bad qualifying, but in the race pace they were even or sometimes a bit faster. And it shouldn't be a track where the AMG is that fast. So yeah, race pace was really not that good. Also had a big tire drop off after, let's say, 5 to 6 laps compared to the Ford especially. So yeah, we just have to work harder on race setup, race pace, and yeah, the tracks should suit our car well. It's just on us, I think, to do a good job.
Of course, on screen we have Yannick Ruoff's big rundown presented by Ready Set Sim. A impressive Moses setup you have there, certainly powering the pole and the points today, you'd have to say. And we love hearing the confidence going forward. I think that Porsche is going to be one to be reckoned with. Before we let you go, Yannick, anybody you want to shout out there?
Yeah, shout out to my mates. They're doing another race today. I think they're doing quite good. So I check on them now, and yeah, looking forward to the next rounds.
There you have it. Yannick Ruoff, P2 today, and Titans the championship points in GTD. Congratulations, guys.
Thank you, guys. See you next time.
From P2 in the GTD category to P1 in GTP, and my goodness, was it difficult. Ben Ford joins us from the winning CRF team. Ben, I'm just going to let you tell us. Talk us through your day.
Incredibly stressful and slightly angering at times because I started the race well. Very good first lap on the cold tyres compared to the other team. And then I slightly tapped the GT3 and got 18 seconds of front damage, which I don't know how. So that really put me out of sync in the first stint because I just had no pace. I mean, to be honest, I didn't have much pace for the whole race, but that really didn't help. In the second stint, I clawed it all back. I think I was quicker than the guy in front. It's just impossible to overtake and also made too many mistakes. More than the whole, a very bad race from me. But I managed to sort of salvage it in the last part and just defend really well. So I'm quite happy, but also stressed at the same time.
We were sitting up here in the booth, and we apologize, Ben, for doubting you, but we were seeing Galeo close in with 18 minutes left to go. And we thought there's no way Ben can hang on for this long with a charging car that ran them down. But you did. What was the key to defending that position from so long when a car is literally sitting on your rear wing?
I mean, I had a little bit of confidence because they caught me. They were quicker, but he caught me in through traffic mainly. Like, he got really close from the traffic, so I knew I still had, compared to the first hit, I knew I had the pace to keep him behind. Because I think here you need a significant amount of pace advantage to get an easy move done. It was only about on the really good lap from him, maybe 2 or 3 tenths quicker. If that, it was maybe like, if not, if it wasn't a perfect lap from him, it was about a tenth. So that's easily fightable. That's the difference between one corner and another corner. So just focused on getting good exits. But every time he got near me, I just parked on the apex and just tried to shoot out the corner, and it worked to a certain extent, I think. So yeah.
2 wins in a row. Where's the confidence level as we head into the mid-season?
Relatively confident. I mean, we have a decent gap now from the last 2 races. I think as long as we, because for me today, I was really close to getting the drive through from the X's because I made so many mistakes. Daytona was very different. Definitely didn't have the pace, well, it wasn't as severe as we first, when we look back at it, as we first thought. Fucking hell, English. Sorry, language. Yeah, confident.
We love to hear it. Ben, anybody you want to shout out, the team, the family?
Yeah, shout the team. Yeah, although they can do one for having given me a bad setup, but I'll forgive them.
Talk about that a little bit in GTP. We saw a lot of cars with locking up problems, and it just looked like they were carrying too much speed, and the cars getting away from them. Nobody seemed immune to it. What was the issue today in GTP?
Well, from my experience, the braking itself wasn't an issue. It's just because most of the hard braking zones, bar the last corner, you have to turn and brake. Turn 1, you're coming straight out the left-hander. Corkscrew, you're always turning left and right. So it's very difficult to actually keep the fronts from locking. But if you go too rearward, you can't have any you don't have any confidence in the brake to hammer it if you need to. I mean, I'm quite decent in the brakes. I struggled a bit when I had the damage, but it sort of sorted itself out towards the end. And the big part was the temperature and the front. I mean, for me, again, me personally, the rear tyres died about halfway through the stint, and the front tyres, I never had it in the first place. It just overheated immediately. So probably why the tyres, I'm really with the starters thing, 'cause the tyres really, like, the warmth rose very quickly. So it's just overheating, I think, mainly was the problem.
Well, there you have it, Ben. It was an excellent drive. You took the lead, you lost the lead, you took the lead again. You had to defend the lead for 20 minutes. Absolute Ironman status today, and I think the team owe you a little bit. I happen to agree with you on that. Folks, ladies and gentlemen, Ben Ford, winner in the CRF Motorsport number 9, 2 weeks on the trot. Gets it done the hard way today. Congratulations.
Thank you.
For Ben Ford, to Ryan Cassidy, who had an up and down day for the Racing Nublets team. Ryan, I got to ask, what was the issue that sent you down pit lane in extra time?
Wheel malfunction. I completely lost all force feedback. My wheel disconnected from the pins, and it was downhill from there as well.
Well, you were able to get that sort of sorted, right? Because you came back out on the racetrack at some point, but it's still, I think it caps off, I won't put words in your mouth. I think it was a frustrating day. How'd you see it?
Oh, very frustrating, yeah. The first stint, I felt pretty good, to be honest. I felt I had the pace for maybe a podium, or if there was incidents at the end, maybe a win, but I don't think I had the outright pace for the win. But the podium, it felt good, that it could be, or it felt like it could be possible, because it was just impossible to overtake around here. So it was pretty easy to keep the cars behind, even while not pushing. But then the very last lap of the stint, we got into an incident.
Well, so many cars found it difficult. GTP had just loss of grip and locking up issues, but GTD had their fair share of issues today as well. What was so difficult? Was it the conditions, the racetrack, the traffic? What exactly made this the perfect storm?
It was. I feel like it was the track temp, but in the practice sessions I was doing, it was around 28, 29 degrees track temp. Once we got into the session, it was up about 46, 47. So it was like relearning braking points, and if you put too much, even a slight bit too much steering angle in, the rear would loop, and it was very difficult, especially towards the end of the stint when the tire started to die.
I've got
Well,
one final question for you, and this is the big one, all right? So prepare yourself.
yeah.
What the heck is a racing nublet?
I don't know myself. That's
Ma-
what the team name was called, and it wasn't me that came up with the name, but I have no idea.
Perhaps it's better not to know. Ryan, is there anyone you want to shout out in the team, loved ones?
I guess just Jake, and he, he had a bit of a unfortunate day, but it was very difficult conditions out there, and the setup was a bit tricky as well. So, but he stuck it out and did what he could. So, yeah.
There you go. Thanks for coming and talking to us, Ryan. Better luck in the next round. Ryan Cassidy for the team Nublet Racing Nublets team put their heart and soul in it today. Just didn't quite get the result. Thanks for coming and talking to us anyway.
Thanks, guys.
And on to Maciej Hyla. Hyla, just run down your day from your perspective. You were in amongst it today, as I would describe.
Yeah, I would say so. I would say today I had much better pace compared to the front runners than at Daytona. I felt like I could have been fighting for the win there. I mean, definitely for qualifying, for example, I could have gotten pole position if I did my best lap, and I was catching the leaders in my second stint. But the big issue for me was it started okay, but as the race went on, I started having more and more stutters. And near the end of the second stint, it just became so bad that I kept making mistakes. And unfortunately, was just trying to deal with it, which is a shame because I feel like if that didn't happen, that could have been a nice fight for the win.
Your team, Weapons Mandatory, is making a habit out of finishing on the podium. You practically live there. We should start charging you rent. At some point, at the halfway point in the season, we start to think, why not the Weapons Mandatory team? Why not you guys? How close are you to that win?
I feel like we're there. We're very close. We just need to have a race where we have no flaws, where you have no issues. Like today was just mostly technical issues, to be honest. Because in near the end of the second stint, I was catching. I was like 6 seconds behind the leaders. But yeah, it's just about keeping it clean next time. I feel like we can keep it clean because we showed at Daytona, even though we didn't have the best pace, we stuck it. We kept it clean there and got the P3. And if we just get all of these things, together, that's there might be the win there.
Every driver we've talked to thus far, Maciej, has come in and said that the track conditions were difficult today. Is that how you found them as well?
Not quite. I feel like I did develop more pace compared to the others as the stint went on, especially when I made some changes in the IndyCar setup. It's very useful to change the anti-roll bars as the race goes on, because it basically brought back the balance that you kind of get used to at the start of the stint. But yeah, I feel like I didn't have as much issue with that as others, I think.
Well, it's absolutely a virtue. It certainly paid off today with a brilliant podium finish. Anybody you want to shout out back at home?
I want to shout out Mats for making a amazing setup with me. Unfortunately, he couldn't race today, but it was great that he could work work with me on the setup, and also want to shout out my friend MDK for watching the race.
There you go. Shout out indeed. Maciej Hyla, they get the podium again. We're going to charge them rent, I think, if they keep this up. And one of the most inventive looking cars on the grid. Maciej, as always, thanks for coming and talking to us. Congratulations on another brilliant drive. We'll talk to you after winning one of these things in a couple of weeks, yeah?
Thank you. See you next time.
Well, absolutely love to see it. Hyla always comes and bring the interesting cars. They bring the interesting results as well. John, a lot of drivers complaining about how difficult it was out there. Nothing of the sort from Weapons Mandatory. Steady as she goes, as per usual. Some deserving winners and podium finishers. I think we can all agree. Some dramatic racing I think we all saw here today. I'm looking forward to a break. I need a nap.
Yeah, an absolutely hectic afternoon at Laguna Seca. We thought kind of before we came on air it would be a bit of a bore fest, a bit of a snooze fest, but anything but that. This afternoon, it was great to see all the drivers duking it out in both GTP and GTD. We had some winners, we had some losers, but of course we had lots of championship points on the table, and we'll bring you any updates next round on that one. Of course, race results are pending any further incident reports, so that is subject to change, but assume the order we saw today will be the order that they will finish in for the points standing. Next round, round 4, takes us to Watkins Glen. That's on May 31st. We hope to see you once again on RCI TV. And of course, the RCI calendar tonight is Nadal in LMU as we head to the Hypersprint Series, where we lump all the hypercars into one championship and let them all battle it out amongst each other. Round 3 tonight at Portimao. Sign-ups are still open if you do fancy a late sign-up this afternoon. Monday, we're heading back to ACC for the opening round of our brand new Monday Championship. You can join myself on RCI TV, hopefully, for a broadcast on that one. Lamborghini Super Trofeo kicks off at Monza. 21 sign-ups already on the cards with some very competitive names. Why not throw your hat into that ring and see if you can take yourselves a title with us here at RCI. And if hypercars in LMU aren't your forte, then why not give our Friday Championship a go with a focus on the GT side of the game. Round 3 next Friday takes place at Interlagos. You can join Ted, Jesse, and Katrina on RCI TV for that one. Remember, head on over to the website racerci.com, where you can see all of our events day or night. Also on the website with sign-ups open, World Tour 2025 within ACC, Nürburgring 24 hours. Next round, hopefully, pending sign-up numbers, May 17th. So why not assemble yourselves a team, boost the numbers, and see if we can go 24 hours around the ring for that one. Of course, a big mention to our partners that make all of the things we do here at RCI possible. And of course, starting with Ready, Set, Sim, who is, of course, the title sponsor of today's championship. Build your dream sim rig in seconds with their sim rig builder. Their mission is to simplify sim racing by providing a comprehensive and personalized experience, whether you're a novice looking to get started or an experienced racer looking to optimize your setup. Of course, bringing €400 prize pool to the RSS Endurance Championship alongside our RCI trophies. Coach Dave Delta, faster lap times start with Delta, a setup and data analysis app for iRacing, ACC, LMU, and even Gran Turismo 7. Their links down below in the description. Greenman Gaming, where you can buy game keys and exclusive game bundles at the best prices with Greenman Gaming. Our affiliate link down below for that one. IMB Racewear, title sponsor of the Community Series, and of course the one of the prize givers within the 6-hour esports series. They're providing fully custom designs to allow both sim racers and real life racers to make the impact they've always wanted in their clothing. Moser Racing, who we saw on Yannick Ruoff's RSS card earlier on, featuring in both Wheelbase and Wheel itself. Thrilled to partner with those guys last year. Their affiliate link down below in the description. And last but no means least, we are a recommended community at Motorsport UK Esports, which is a pretty prestigious thing to have, I would say, on the website and the broadcast. But it has been a wonderful afternoon of racing here at Laguna Seca on RCI TV, on both Twitch and YouTube. You can find all of our RCI links down below if you do want to get involved with us in the community side of things as well. But from myself, John Dalton, from Jesse Lee alongside me, and from Ted Edwards behind the cameras, we hope you have a wonderful rest of the weekend, and we hope to see you sometime soon on an RCI TV broadcast, which should be Monday coming as the Lamborghini Super Trofeo Cup kicks off within ACC. So we hope to see you on RCI TV once again. We hope you have a wonderful rest of the weekend. Take care of yourselves, and we'll see you very soon.
You ready? 3, 2, 1, go. Get behind the wheel, let's go. Grip the road, feel the flow. Thunder roaring, steel alive. Live this dream and drive. Tires burning with gasoline. Push the limits, chasing green. One shot, don't slow. Go on, we'll take control. Engines scream alive tonight. Blazing past the red line. Outrun the night, won't lose this fight. Follow the road, red line for show. We're chasing taillights, don't let go. Under the stars, we'll go so far. This is who we are. Chasing taillights. Chasing taillights. Chasing taillights. We're chasing taillights. The miles they fade, but they don't die. Faster now, the hours fly by. Sweat and gears, hearts in sync. On the edge, on the brink. Clock ticks down, stakes are high. One mistake, we kiss us goodbye. Don't slow down, we're not done. Finish line for the strong ones. Engines scream.